You should be automatically excluded from any government assistance, PPP, EIDLE, etc. Side note, he says, in these times, a clean conscience should be your primary business objective. DM me if you want to debate this.
Whoa! What was that person's name?
That's Chris Henry, TCA.
All right, we've officially went live. I just got a notice from YouTube. So we are live, and we're going to give people a couple minutes to make their way over to us. And it's funny, Brian Watt just sent me a message saying, Dr. Belzer and I are sitting in your waiting room, ready to talk, but the donuts are stale. So welcome to Madgaines Live. And I have to tell you guys, I don't know what to expect. JD, Jamin, do you guys know what to expect today? Like what? It could be.
We're all going to talk. We're going to chat, meet a lot of new people, let people be heard, and hopefully come up with some, at least the start of a good conversation solution.
Yeah.
Let's get weird.
Or shit's going to be
weird, baby.
Or shit's going to be lit. All right.
I think people are tired of it. They're ready.
I think they are too. I think they're ready. So let's see how many people we've got going on LinkedIn and the other channels. We're giving you guys a couple seconds. There's always a delay. So we give people a couple seconds to find us and start watching us. And here we go. So I will tell everybody who's watching us, we do have a lineup of speakers, but
yes,
you can come on and speak at any point in time. You just have to message in the comments section of the live feed. You got to put your comments, message to JD, message to Jamin to get their attention. We will put you here in our little waiting room, and then you can go live. You will have what, guys? 30 seconds to get to your point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That way, a lot of people get to talk.
No intros, basically. Yes. If someone's involved in this, they already got the credibility. We can just get ripping with it.
Yeah, agreed. And it's funny.
Don't come on this show if you don't have your facts. I'm telling you now,
yeah,
people are going to rip
advice.
you to pieces. Don't come on this show trying to sugarcoat who you are. Because if you come on here and you are or remotely for this 50 cent, 59 cent a mile bull crap, I promise you will get ran out of town. But if you're bold enough, hey,
yeah,
you do it.
Now, you guys, I have to give you a pause for a moment because this happens a lot. I swear this is not Cassandra. But on Vimeo, often things get messed up with LinkedIn. So yeah, so now it's about to go live on LinkedIn. We were live on YouTube. We were live on Gaines Group. And now.
Was that on Facebook?
Now the Gaines Law Group is on Facebook. And we were live on YouTube. Now the thing is spinning. You should see us go live soon on LinkedIn. So this is why I start this stuff early, because you never know, man.
Smart.
There we go. We're live on LinkedIn now. So we are golden.
We are live.
All right.
All right. So now let's start again. Welcome to the Mad Gaines Show. This is the Rate Face Off. I see Chris Jolly is the first person to hit that button, baby. Hi, Chris. Woo, woo.
Good dude.
Here's the deal. You guys have your moderators, which is JD in the house. You've got Jamin. And guys and gals out there, we do have speakers lined up, but you can join us. It's not that hard. In the feed, we recommend you follow us on LinkedIn. You go to my website, my profile page on LinkedIn, and you'll find me in the feed live in the comments section. I want you to leave your comments. JD and Jamin will see them, and they will bring you into the show live. You get 30 seconds where you can make your point and get out. And JD, what were you saying about bringing the game?
Listen, do not come into this feed, this live, if you are not going to be authentic. If you are standing behind any broker that is listing anything less than 75 cents a mile, which is still pathetic, I'm telling you, do not come in here. You'll get chased out of town. I have a list. I'm checking it twice. And I'm not Santa Claus, but I will deliver on that list. Don't you do it.
I really hope that someone comes in here and challenges JD on that point.
Oh,
I'm waiting for it. All right, we got Melissa and Jerry Cooper. They've already, and you guys are gonna see them. They're gonna join us soon. I see JP Miller's here. He says, "Here we go." I see James Johnston. JC Fetter is my fucking New Yorker. I love him. Oh yeah. There's a reason, guys, I wore this shirt, and gals. Hold on, let me move the hair so you can see it. There's a reason, and it's because if you have children in the area, earmuffs. Because
Please.
this is not going to be censored. This is not going to be professional. This is not going to be anything. It's just a forum where we're going to talk about rates. So be ready.
It's gonna be real. That's all we got.
It is. It's going to be real. So, okay, before we get started with our speakers, which actually we probably should let me pop them in right now. I see Rob Lemick leaving post. Andrew, I see Vic. We got a lot of activity going on right now.
Sabrina Potter out there. Hello.
Hi, Sabrina. Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring in our speakers, okay? And we got 141 people watching us right now. Just on LinkedIn.
Welcome,
Don't
guys.
forget
Welcome.
that we are live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and where else? I think that's it. Let's bring in our first guest. We're going to admit Dr. Michael Blelzer. Admitting. Hello. Here's Brian. All right.
Is that the doctor himself?
Doctor himself. The doctor of rates. He's coming in to educate us. And then I see Brian. Brian, I'm going to unmute you. The clear doctor. I see he's hanging
Brian?
out.
Oh,
Brian, while the doctor is figuring out his audio, could you kick off this show?
me. All right.
Yeah, I want you to tell us very quickly, because we all know you have a ton of experience. You've been all over LinkedIn. You've been telling us your thoughts. I want you to tell us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. I want you
Good.
to tell
5
us.
by 5.
Yep. So your first round, I want you to tell us. There was a post about 57 cents a mile.
Oh my God.
Posted it. It lit us all up. What do you think about that, Brian?
Oh,
All yours. And hi, Michael Belzer. Glad to have you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Very cool. Michael, you wrote a book about our industry and rates.
Well, I wrote a book about that industry, and I've done a lifetime of research on it, and I used to drive a truck.
Nice.
well, for starters, there's a
Oh,
significant
nice.
delay. So I guess it's for language.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
Guys.
Anyway, I'm sort of the Johnny Cash of transport.
Nice.
Where we need the black.
Yeah, where's the black? And also for Michael and Brian, you don't want to listen to us on social media. You'll want to listen to us on Zoom if you are listening to us. And for all those who are going to call in, make sure you're on Zoom to listen.
Please be on Zoom or you will
Yeah.
be dealing with a delay. So right now on my phone, I have our LinkedIn app pulled up. I can hear ourselves. There's about a 15 to 20 second delay right now if you're not a part of our Zoom chat. So,
Yeah,
and that's
listen to Zoom
nothing
audio.
about our technology. That's just how it is. Like
Yeah.
there's always a delay. So we did everything right. Cass did everything right. There's just a delay.
Yeah. And Chandler, I have this for you. Chandler will like that. He's asked us to have boxing sounds. So, okay. So start us off real quick, Michael and Brian. Tell us your thoughts. Dive right in. Give us an overview of what we should know about why rates are tanking right now and what we can do about it. And should people be mad? And do they have a right to be mad?
I hear you loud and clear, Cassandra. I want to start this discussion off by talking about two basic rate structures.
I think there's some feedback, Brian. I don't know if it's
There is,
you.
I get it too. It's
Driving
bouncing.
nuts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what you think, Michael. Let's go to Michael. You have feedback
Okay.
too, Michael?
Yeah, that's fine. So look, I've had a lot of questions from the press lately trying to figure this stuff out. I think one of the things that you have to understand is, of course, this is, as you all know, if you're involved in trucking, there's a great, I see the behind the black shirt there, we have trucks and a truck stop, but but you probably aren't sitting in it. So look, the problem is it's a supply and demand thing. People have been whining for some time, particularly the trucking industry people have been whining for some time about the driver shortage. And there's, of course, no such thing as a driver shortage. There's a shortage of pay. If drivers are paid more, you wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. It's pretty simple. So yeah, I'm just a country economist. So look, you gotta be able to pay people enough to attract them to that industry to do that work. And that has not been the case for some time. It goes back for 40 years, but I've been studying it for the last 30 or so, and I drove in it before that. So I actually worked before deregulation and after deregulation, about 10 years overall, about 5 before and 5 after, roughly speaking. And I can tell you there was an abrupt change that occurred when the industry was deregulated and we went to this highly competitive rate making process that replaced what used to be out there in the old days with collective rate making.
Mm-hmm.
So now that the industry has been suffering since maybe 35 years from this shortage of labor, but the shortage of labor, if you really, and I started hearing this from people in the late 1980s, from companies and from analysts, but the problem was really not that they couldn't get labor, it's they couldn't get the right labor. They couldn't get the people they wanted. Well, we can get people with drug problems, or we get people with alcohol problems, or we get people with safety problems, or we get people who show up to work, or maybe they don't show up to work. You know, you got to pay for that. And the industry has been plagued by the inability to make enough money to pay for that. And the reason behind all that is that the power shifted, the bargaining power in the marketplace shifted to the cargo owners. And you'll be shocked to know that it was the cargo owners who were the ones who pushed for deregulation in the 1970s.
Oh,
and that
shocking.
Was to reduce the cost. Nothing new here. This is all old news, right?
Yeah.
I specialize in bringing old news out to everybody in today's world, right?
Yeah.
So when starting in it started in really 97 or 77 with administrative deregulation, which was being done by the anti-inflation czar, Alfred Kahn, Cornell professor of economics who had gone to work for Carter. And how do we trim the inflation? The only person in this crowd that I'm looking at who's going to remember that inflation somewhat would be Brian. So you have to have read about that inflation. Maybe you studied in school or whatever, or talked to the old cranky old man or grandpa. So back in those days, inflation in 1979, 1980, we were up in the double-digit inflation area, and it cost 20%. A mortgage cost 20% interest rate, even 25% by maybe 81, 82.
Mm-hmm.
So clamping down on inflation was very, very important. How do you do that? Well, one of the things, you create lots of competition, and the cargo owners were the ones who were driving this, which is the reason why it was bipartisan.
Yep.
Because the cargo owners wanted that, and that was whether the auto manufacturers or it was the big box stores or whatever. It was early in the big box days, but all of them wanted it now or yesterday, and they wanted it cheap, just like today. They want the same thing, right? Nothing's really changed. But that's the power of supply and demand, and that has driven the rates down, and that's what's make it so cheap.
Yep.
And it has created a problem out there for drivers because they don't get enough money to survive on.
But do you agree with that right now, Mike? I mean, do you agree with these rates? Do you agree with these rates that you're starting to see? I mean, we've seen rates as low as 50 cents in certain areas for routes. I mean, and this is coming from brokers that we know could do better. The routes are good routes. These aren't some little podunk country routes. I mean, these got some miles on them. I mean, are you in agreement then that they should be this low, or should there be a threshold?
So they get the meaning of should is what I'm going to get at here. So if you're going to have an unregulated marketplace and you're going to let the market decide on what rates, then they're going to be as high or as low as the market will support.
Yep.
One of the things that happened, this administration just recently issued, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration issued a special exemption for if you're hauling necessary goods or whatever, that you could break the law. Not that anybody was following it anyway, but you could break the hours of service regulation and do what you wanted to do.
Yep.
So that's not really necessary because we have a surplus of drivers.
Yep.
And so we went from a driver shortage, which was really not a shortage, it was just no pay and you couldn't get anybody to do the work, to a huge surplus. And that, to answer your question, is why we see the low rates, because the rates are dropping like a stone. Spot rates dropping more than anything because they can. So why would anybody pay more in a free market? Why would anybody pay more than he has to pay? And they won't, especially in trucking. They will get it cheap. So we have an out of control situation, and this coronavirus outbreak and the necessary shutdown that has occurred, you just can't have people around exposing everybody. This is not something that is a crisis like that exposes the weakness of having pure market rates and having no foundation, no basic level below which rates can drop. So I'm a believer. I'm a kind of a, I guess that I'm considered the father of the area, the emphasis area globally called safe rates, which is to charge. We should have minimum wage rates that can't drop below that, so that everybody gets paid, and then that would solve a lot of our problems. Problems go away.
A minimum rate.
This has been going on for a long time. This issue is not new.
Yeah, it has been going on for a long time.
Do you think this pandemic will end up being a tipping point that gets us to some real change, or it's just the conversation will be the can that gets kicked down the road?
Well, I've got to go to the other room and grab that crystal ball out. My students asked me the same thing again yesterday in a class sort of like this. And I guess the answer is, I don't know. I'm looking to see people realizing that the kind of things that people have to realize now, and that this has brought out, go far beyond just this situation. They have to recognize that we're on the planet Earth together. We're all in this country together. We're all in this market together. And we have to figure out how to actually get along. We have to figure out how to create a balanced market environment so that everybody can make a living at it. And I don't know if people will recognize that. It would be good if they did. I'll do my best to keep hammering away at it.
But you brought up a good point when you said bringing about a balanced market. And so what I'm starting to realize after we're talking with Cassandra, we're talking with Jam, we're realizing that truckers and people in the trucking industry don't understand what it takes to run a profitable brokerage or freight operation or logistics. And so you have a couple of different niches in the transportation industry that's coming and they're butting heads because how I calculate my profitability isn't how they calculate their profitability. And we've never had these conversations where we can say, guys, let's sit down at a table, show me what your P&L looks like, show me what your marginal yields are, I'll show you what mine are, and let's figure out where they link. And the common ground would be what you're saying, which is a minimum rate market. What is the bottom low threshold that we will pay minimum no matter what? But because we've been taught, and it's been over the years where people want to just fight and go back and forward, we're not having this communication. And that's what this is for. You brought up the perfect moment here. That's what this conversation is. How do we bring about conversations that will change the entire transportation industry so that when we have another instance like this, we're not seeing bottom low rates and some truck drivers aren't able to feed their families?
And I think to that point too, JD, too many people fluff about what their true numbers to operate are, or just aren't aware of it and act like they are, both on the broker side of what it costs to run a load or a transaction through, what's the real cost of that, and on the carrier side, what's the real cost to run a mile. And so I think we posture on both sides too much about that and need to get to the true.
Yes.
So let me just toss in something. This is great. I mean, it's great to hear you guys talking like this. I'm older than you. So back in the 1970s, when I was a driver, I can remember going down the road and talking with other drivers on the CB. Now, I was a Teamster. I got paid. They were not. They did not. And that was a huge difference. And I can still remember a long conversation on the CB with a North American Van Lines guy. Now, North American Van Lines was owned by PepsiCo Leasing at that time. And their main business was selling trucks to drivers and then repossessing those trucks whenever when a driver was close to paying for the truck. This was a lease purchase agreement. That sounds familiar.
Yep.
Debt
Yep.
peonage. So so they would repossess that truck from the driver, and then they would resell it back to somebody else. And when they did that, they were making their money off the flip of the trucks, not the rates. But I remember talking with them, working it down through with them about how much you're actually getting paid. And of course, they weren't making minimum wage then either. So this is not a new problem. This is an ongoing problem. And as long as we are strictly competitive and that we're operating by the free market, then you can expect the rates to be below what it takes to pay for the cost of operation.
Dr.
That makes
Dr. Belzer, thank you so much. You are now like our favorite person, and we're totally going to have you back on too. I mean, that was smart.
Yes, it was. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. You ready to move on to the next thing?
Got to do the next thing. Got to keep the attention. All right. Welcome, guys. We have new attendees. I have Jesse and John, but where are you guys?
Hello, Cassandra. I'm in Cole, Texas.
Ooh, Cole, Texas.
Nice. Texas boy.
Hey, guys.
And then who do I have in the bottom left-hand corner? I'm having a hard time seeing it. I think he's still checking audio, maybe. We'll hang out chill for a moment.
So
All
Cassandra, we got people in the comments right now that are loving what we've been talking about. You got folks saying interesting debate. Chris Henry, TCA, says stock markets have trading curves. This is an interesting discussion. You have a lot of people that are loving the conversation around the regulated rates. I mean, is it possible? Could this be something that we do? Is this something we can use going forward to protect drivers? They are really interested in what can we take out the confusion as far as for these regulated rates. So I'm interested to see how we keep talking about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up those comments. And I would say that, guys, we're going to be very real right here because we talk about, Dr. Belzer was saying it, but how many of you out there truly think shippers with all their lobbying money is going to let us have regulated rates?
Well, that's the thing. There's a conversation of like on paper, what would make sense, and then the real world. So we got to find the middle.
Yeah. And then let's add on that. Are the big carriers with all their lobbying money, are they going to want minimum rates? I don't mean to be an asshole and blow things up. I'm just throwing these ideas out there.
No, I'd say the difference is if you go to that, I mean, what separates the good carriers from the bad carriers is their service, their ability. I mean, it's capitalism at its finest. If I'm coming in and I'm outperforming somebody, but they're still getting paid the same amount because there's a minimum rate. I mean, you're in a market that you're going into, and you start a company. So if you don't like it, you can't handle it, and you can't pivot and be prepared for it, you're going to get weeded out. I mean, I think that's part of what capitalism is. I think just recognizing it and seeing it, is the biggest thing. I mean, you can waste your time sitting here and talking about regulating rates and coming together as carriers and going against brokers, but at the end of the day, you could use that time to be researching markets and other ways and strategies to put money on your trucks and where the capacity of the trucks is, and also where the capacity of the loads are. They don't always go up and down. Sometimes they shift. You look right now, I mean, some commodities aren't moving at all. Some are moving 3 times more than what they were. So are you seeing that, or knowing where to send them? But I mean, the average age of a broker compared to a driver is separated by about 10 years. So The knowledge is in the drivers, right?
10
the
years
drivers have the
minimum.
knowledge. Are they sharing it? That's where I learned most of my stuff. Just talking to the guys on the phone. Are they sharing it? I mean, it may be wasted words to some people, but I wouldn't mess with the brokers that don't listen anyways.
So TJ, we have people in the comments right now. John, and I hope I say your name, John McClymount. He says brokers, carriers are the problem for rate drops greater than shippers. Are you in agreement with that brokers and carriers are more the problem versus shippers?
It's all relative. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, a lot of the shippers right now are pinched because their suppliers are shut down. I mean, some of their suppliers are China, UK, India. If they're shut down, now you're looking for another supplier. That other supplier knows that, and they're gouging them. Where they're going to save money? Trucking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at it from big picture, there's that, right? I mean, it comes down to management at the end of the day. You've got a team of brokers. Are you just letting them fly free? I mean, you've got young people with student loans and worried about. I mean, people talk about how much a truck costs. It's extremely important, and you need to know that. I think it's very valuable. But at that point, they're worried about paying their rent and their car payment, and so when they get a chance to get the rates, they're going to get them because they're young. Is the manager that is preaching, carrier sourcing all year round? Is he preaching it now? Is now the time? Is he seeing that, or is he letting them fly free? So, I think that's one of the biggest things it comes down to.
Yeah.
Jesse, Riker Fox in the comments, who's a legit broker, brought that up to your point, TJ, of a lot of it goes down to the education of these people, because there are the ebbs and flows, but are these people at the desk level taught what a true partnership is, or just, is it an empty buzzword?
If you look at a brokerage, is as a manager in a brokerage area, are you on the phone with the customers and the shippers? Are you talking to the higher level people? Now's when you should be communicating. Let them know what's going on out there. Do they know? They come in, they get told here's the target rate. They send it to the load planner. They got a target rate. That's it. Give them something to take back to their management, right? They've got a target rate and they got to go above it. Tell them how valuable it is to have carriers that know the ins and outs of the shipper and receiver and how much problems that could reduce and all that stuff. Put that in their mind and talk to them. It may not work, but at least you're giving it a shot, and trying to educate people and keep that going.
Yeah.
Hey, Cassandra, we got Roger Pennington, who just said, just say no to regulated rates. Stop hauling those cheap loads. The shippers will come up when it's sitting on the dock. Long as you're moving freight off the dock, these shippers don't care about your cost to run your truck down the road.
Jesse,
so how do we get shippers to care about that?
Yeah, Jesse, what do you think about that? You're a truck driver. You're a trucking company.
Well, I think that we're talking about two different things here. I think that there is spot loads that are worked every day by brokers. And I think those particular rates are right now being affected by what's going on. And that's where the brokers, I think, are faced with of having to book these loads at a very low rate. But there is plenty of freight out there that is contracted rate, but the rates haven't changed. I mean, we have plenty of customers that those rates haven't changed. The only change that we've seen is the fluctuation of fuel surcharge, and it's minimal. So where's those rates and loads that these brokers have contracted on RFPs in the last year? Those haven't changed, yet we're seeing brokers broker the same lanes that we've seen all year that they contracted with lower rates.
Oh, that's a good point. Contracted. That's a big point. That is a big point right there.
TJ, you have anything to say about that? Oh, TJ's gone. All right. How about our other attendee? What is your name, sir? Welcome to the party.
Ted.
Hi, Ted. Are you broker or carrier? Carrier. All right. What do you have to say about Jesse's point?
He's spot on. I was thinking the same thing. I mean, really, it's, we have contracted rates as well, and it doesn't make any sense to me why contract rates are staying the same, yet you're seeing rates posted for half of that. Fuel surcharge, like he said, is minimal, 10, 15% less. I mean, fuel's at an all-time low, and that's awesome, but it doesn't dictate a drop in 75 cents to $1 a mile on lanes. I get it that, on the flip side is, in 2018, when the market wasn't carriers' favorite, contract rates were losing. But my argument, for brokers that say, well, now, it's your time, it's turn. Look at 2018. How many brokers filed bankruptcy? They didn't lose even in the carriers market, as everybody said.
Wow, good point.
But in 2019, we saw record companies going under. So the difference is brokers the contract rates that they're bidding, that's to get in the spot market because that's where they make their money. I know people that work at high level brokerage firms, and contract is nothing more than a get in for what carriers typically haul. Because carriers, we want contract. We want consistency. I don't want $7 a mile once a month and then $2 a mile the rest of it. I'd take $2.50 a mile and be happy year round. Drivers want consistency. Assets want consistency. Brokers want the high stuff. It's kind of like stock exchange market. If they want the crazy stuff that pays crazy and they're willing to do whatever they can to get it. So they take the bottom low crap, right, to facilitate that. And so for me, it's, you know, brokers argument of, you know, oh, well, you had your turn. Now we're just, you know, taking advantage because we can. Yeah. It's not a level playing field by any means. The playing field is tilted and it's in control of brokers' favor, no matter what the market is. You know what I mean?
But where does relationship come in this? Like we got Vitaly in the comments saying that it's all about relationships. So where does the relationship on the broker side, or should I almost say the loyalty from the broker to the carrier, where does that come into play?
So this is what I've noticed. 2018, brokers were calling carriers every day. Where's your truck list? Where's your truck list? Where's your truck list? How can I help you? How can I help you?
Yep.
And now 2019, 2020, I don't get the same phone call. I don't get the 3 phone calls a day. Dude, where's my list? I can move your trucks. I can move your trucks. Now it's, oh man, I'm sorry. I have 10 other people that already want the load and you're not the cheapest. So the partnership, right? The partnership, I'm sorry, but I'm seeing partnerships that have been around for 10, 15 years for people that have been in this industry telling me that it's gone because the bottom dollar is affected. And it's sad, but it's happening. I mean, this is a reality. And
so what does that do for the company though? What does that do for after COVID is over and we go back to whatever the new normal is? What the hell happens to these brokers that literally pissed on carriers right now?
The sad thing is we as carriers know that we do need the brokered freight. You know, I can't charge, you know, with technology, which I'm a big advocate for, you know, 25 years ago, it was common to charge a round trip wherever you're going, right? Because you were coming back empty unless you knew somebody that had that lane. But now with the backhaul system set up, you can't charge a round trip. So we still need them. So at the end of the day, I'm going to still have to call that broker that was posting that crap lane right now. And I'm going to have to suck it up because I know for me to stay business and be sustainable, I'm going to have to deal with them. Am I going to try and work with people that I've known that have kind of stuck through this? Yeah, you're going to try. But at the end of the day, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's not fair what's happening. And brokers know it. I mean, you know, I think they see what's going on. You know, they're saying that, yes, this is the market. But look, they know in the back of their head what they're doing is wrong. You know, $1.50 a mile when they're charging $3, $4 a mile, knowing that the carrier isn't getting by. They know it's wrong. The problem is they don't have the volume and commissions anymore. So they're justifying it by, I've got to make my minimum wage. I've got to pay my bills, like someone else on the show earlier said. You know, these people have bills too that, you know, in these brokerage firms. And so for them, it's everybody's thinking the same thing, survive. And survive brings out negativity. So moving forward, it's going to become a thing of who's going to take this and go, okay, I just need to be smarter and more efficient. And then who's going to be the ones that say, screw you, I'm never working with you again. I think that screw you mentality isn't going to last for the company. And it's whether or not you agree with it, that's the problem. You know, this is
hold on. Let's get a couple other opinions in there. Although you are very smart and have a lot of good stuff to say.
We got Tyler and Brandon on the line.
Do we have a broker? Either one of them are broker. Brandon, are you? Brandon, let's hear what you say.
I'm a broker. So relationships are very important from the customer to the carrier. It's just a partnership in general. And the partnerships that people have gained through time, these carriers are still getting good rates. Brokers are necessary in this freight market for when asset carriers drop a load and it's got to get off the dock. Okay, assets can't reposition themselves. Brokers are a necessity. Now, there are good brokers and bad brokers, but there are people that do want to build relationships with carrier partners.
Huge point, Brandon.
And there are bottom feeders out there, just like the carriers are bottom. There's bottom feeder carriers. There's bottom feeder brokers. But it's a free market. It's a free world. And unfortunately, the people that have built those longstanding relationships with the shippers, with the carriers, are still going to continue that. But you're never going to get rid of those bottom feeders. You're never going to get rid of those people that just want the $7 a mile one time, or when things get tough, they're out gouging. It's never going to happen in a free market. I'm sorry. If you want to protect yourself, look into freight futures. Look into something where you can secure capacity or secure a rate in the future.
That's an interesting point. Look into freight
Hey,
futures.
so Cassandra, so Tyler, he works with me. He's my EVP. He is not a broker, but here's the thing. He owns a tow company in California, and he understands the same type of load rates when it comes to his assets. So I popped him in to give a quick minute to figure out what does that mean on the tow side of it, because what a lot of carriers
all right, you better add value, because all I see is another TPN person here. Add that value.
No, listen, so you guys are having an awesome discussion. Number one, it's always curious to me to see that relationship between the broker and the carrier and how all the freight works and how it gets. I've had a huge educational, endeavor with getting involved with freight waves and understanding some of those rates. I have a log into Sonar and I look at a lot of those things because it impacts our business too. We're service providers and we support the carrier. So I'm gonna hit you with a little carrier support on this because brokers I feel like are making a lot of money in a lot of places, and I feel like if they want the longevity, I like what Mr. Bay said just a minute ago. There's good and there's bad. I think that longevity, if you want to have a good business, you've got to have good relationships. And let's just face it, brokers are not driving a truck. They're not moving freight.
All right.
It's true.
Let's go on to our truckers then. I think we have a trucker, don't we?
It looks like it's trying to connect to audio there. The Cooper.
Oh,
Jerry
and Melissa. Oh, let's give them a minute to let's get them a minute to.
We got Chandler trying to connect on too. I want to hear what Chandler has to say.
Chandler always has good things to say. Let's go to the comments real quick, you guys, because if you haven't noticed, we have 260 people on LinkedIn alone.
Kyle Humphreys, who's one of the legit guys in our business and uniquely understands the tech side, the broker side, and the carrier side, someone we're all friends with. He mentioned a point that really resonates with me, and it's how do we get pulling in the same direction? Because we can go back and forth, but do we really understand each other's side? Look, here, a lot of what we're talking about is just the reality, like it's just the way it is, right? So, okay, then how do we at least make it so good brokers are working with good carriers? And kind of making a new way forward and not wasting our time on the I like the term bottom feeders.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've got Jerry now. Jerry, can you hear us now?
Yep, I can hear you. This is Jerry.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, what's up, guys?
You're like our favorite people on social media, you and Melissa. Is Melissa with you?
Yeah, she's with me too. I got y'all on LinkedIn right now. You on Facebook or LinkedIn?
We're on LinkedIn.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah,
there I am. I see.
But make sure you're listening through Zoom, not through the social media.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Jerry, where are you at, man? What part of the America are you at?
We are in Grayson, Kentucky right now. Melissa's going to be going down. Where are you going to pick up, Melissa? Where are you going to pick up tomorrow? Cromwell, Kentucky, Indiana? To pick up a load tomorrow.
Nice.
So.
All right, Jerry, tell us what you guys are thinking. What are you guys feeling? What are you guys seeing?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing is basically the same thing as what these other guys are seeing too. Is basically, it's all about supply and demand. Okay, it's not about the actual. Hang on, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone, okay? So that way Melissa can talk too, okay? Hang on one second.
We gotta have both of you. What is that?
And a little background for people who they should be following Jerry and Melissa on LinkedIn. Melissa drives the truck, and Jerry's broker and freight. So this is like the ultimate face-off in the cab of a truck.
Yeah.
There
you guys go.
We're up here in Grayson, Kentucky, so sorry about the craziness.
That was quite all right. We were excited to have you guys.
Well, see, the thing is that we basically see it the same way that the rest of you guys do. It's basically supply and demand. Okay, we're out here on the road. We go to a lot of the shippers, okay? And I talk to a lot of the shipping managers, okay? And the places we go to. And the thing of it is that some of these trailers are sitting out here sometimes days, sometimes even weeks before they even find a carrier to be able to to be able to move that load. Carriers, I do understand that a lot of times shippers will rely mostly on carriers, okay, to move their freight. But the biggest problem I find with that is that they rely too much on carriers instead of the brokers. You see what I mean?
I gotta throw this in here.
Turn that up.
It's gonna have to be what it is actually is that a lot of people don't understand the cost of operation. So you got a lot of underbidding, and then that's where you got the trailers and stuff.
Big point.
Turn the volume.
Melissa, when Melissa, do you remember, or Jerry, do you remember when there was that post about 57 cents a mile? Was it 57, JD or Jamin?
It was 57 cents a mile. John Elliott from United One, he posted it, and it ticked me off. I think I tagged Cassandra and Jam on it immediately. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I get that. I understand that it is supply and demand, but people, your supply equals your greed right now. Even though demand may be a little bit higher or lower in certain areas, the same drivers that you're saying, clap your hands, thank a truck driver, and the same people you're saying, oh, thank you for restocking America, you're honestly treating like shit with these rates.
Yeah.
There's no other way you can say it.
Yeah. So what do you think, Melissa and Jerry, what did you think about that 57 cents a mile?
I think it's bullshit, to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I had one customer that I ran loads for, and it was a team expedited load. And I kid you not, from Michigan to Washington, they ended up moving a team for $1.27. I told them they were fucking nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And where was that to? Michigan to what?
Michigan to Washington State for a team expedited load.
Seattle.
Yep, Seattle, one of the trade shows. And they end up, and before I was getting over $2, it was $1.24. Yeah, $1.25 a mile for a team expedited.
Unbelievable. Thank you for joining us. We got a bunch of people still here. We love you guys very, very much. Be safe out there. I'm gonna put you in the meeting room. Wait, where did everybody get to?
We got Ingrid, we got Chandler. It's up to you, Kat.
Ingrid's always bringing good
don't forget
stuff
that we have Ron as well.
Ron, there he is.
He's a shipper. So Ron and I worked together when he worked at Monster, and he has a ton of experience. So it'd be good to hear from him. But you guys, so Ron, how are you? Let's unmute Ron.
I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. And so Ron,
good.
talk to us about what we should be thinking about rates. What do you think when you see and hear Melissa, the truck driver, say Michigan to Washington team shipment, $1.25 a mile? I told him to fuck off.
Yeah, it happens. It's interesting. I got to admit, being on this phone call and seeing all you guys from the industry is interesting. One, I want to give Dr. Belzer a hug because I agree with him that driver shortages is bullshit. I've been arguing it for years, but what I think is really interesting is you guys are having this call, and I'm glad to be on it. You're talking about the low end. I'd be really interested. Are you going to have this call when there's a hurricane in Florida? Are you going to have it when there's an earthquake in California or a fire? Now, I'm not throwing stones, to be clear. I built models with past companies, and Cassandra can attest to it.
Yep.
My belief is there is a profit margin that needs to be measured by transportation companies, whether that's a driver or an asset-based company, and then pass through to the brokers, because brokers, frankly, turn small and mid-sized asset-based companies into large national companies for companies like Monster, and then pass off to Monster. So JD, you talked about the fact that you have regulated prices. I completely disagree, but I do think that you can build partnerships with shippers, which frankly hasn't been talked about on this call, to determine what makes the most sense for the company you're working with. I think I heard the phrase about bottom feeders. Frankly, bottom feeders are great. because sometimes you don't give a shit. I don't care when my stuff shows up. I
Listen
don't
to this
care
perspective.
what
Wow,
happens,
this is a
and I
ton of
want to pay
gold.
as little as possible. I think that's fine. I think, though, realistically, we need to be truthful about the fact that there is gouging on both sides, and we need to regulate that.
Yep, bravo. That's fucking wonderful.
So,
And so give me 1 second. We're going to keep you, Ron, because you got gold.
Did he
Chandler.
really
Yeah.
just drop the mic on us?
That's
though,
He
Taz?
did. He
Like, I
did just
feel
fucking
like-
drop the mic. He totally
I was
did.
like, I haven't
And it was
watched
a lot of
baseball.
gold.
I haven't watched baseball in a while, but that was a bat flip right there.
Dude, like,
Okay.
But that's why the conversation, getting all sides of it. You know, we forget sometimes the shipper side, and it goes broker care. Let's just get, you know, the whole side. You know, that's fantastic.
Chandler, what do you think? Because you and I work together, and I love all points that you have to say.
Chandler.
So we got some positives and negatives. So for our actual business as a freight brokerage is that we've always followed the spot market the last 10 years. And I was really mad the last 2 years I didn't follow the contracted rate market. And I feel like I missed on some slices of pie. And because the spot market's been so good for so long and so healthy for so long, we stayed there. And so our business blind spot was sticking in the spot market. Well, we're still in the spot market. It was interesting because I was taking some notes about some shipments we moved last week for some heavy haul loads. And just the rate range we got back from some of the carriers that wanted to haul these was some carriers would do them for $8,000 per shipment. And we had some other carriers who wanted $15,500 for the same shipment. So we moved 9 of these shipments for a range of between $9,000 and $9,300. So if you have 8,000 is maybe your bottom and 15,500 is your top, we're at 9,300, and we had several people want to be in that range. So different people have different costs and things they factor into their pricing. So it's each situation is a little bit different. It's kind of like what Ron said. I've had clients in the past that say, hey, we have this thing that we're only going to pay 57 cents a mile for, but you have 2 weeks to pick it up. It doesn't need to be picked up today. And at some point, I don't know the parameters behind the shipment, but it could have just been a box that weighed 400 pounds and it has 2 weeks to get into the destination. Somebody that might be a good fit for him, whereas everyone else who thinks that that's how I'm going to get from this state to that state, it's a terrible idea to take the load.
What do you think, Ron or Ingrid? Because we got Ingrid too with us. We love
Ingrid.
Ingrid.
Hi guys. Hello. Oh wow, my head's spinning.
Yeah,
It's
we
spinning,
like that.
Spinning. Oh, it's got so much in it right now. 2 weeks and 57 cents. Yeah, fuck that. Sorry, that is not going on my truck. I don't care. It could fit in the sleeper. It's not going to stay there at my feet to sleep. No. What? I mean, who's even thinking this stuff? Here's the thing. As a carrier, you know, all carriers rate themselves of what they need, okay? But here's what they need. They need something to meet their standards of living. Some live above their standards of living, which means their rates, they're going to ask for more. Some don't need that because they don't leave and drop that one.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
did.
true. It's true. I mean, go out and buy the toys. Go out and whatever and that stuff. Listen, I don't have time for that because you know what? My business doesn't work that way. And that's because of spot markets. That's because of freight. That's because of what we're dealing with now. Okay. Anybody that wants to go and play and run the rates up and expect those rates to be sky high because you need it at home because you want to go play, I'm sorry, I don't have time for you. Bottom line.
Wow.
That's big.
We got Jesse back. Jesse, do you agree with Ingrid?
Yeah, I do agree with her. I think I'm.
Hey, Jesse, you better agree with
everybody here. Everybody's got some really good points.
Yeah.
Now,
Jesse, it's
something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I think it really came to play when Uber Freight, Conway, and all those guys. I was really excited that technology had finally caught up to the industry where it would regulate a little bit more the shipper and carrier and put them together. But unfortunately, I think those guys became more like brokers in disguise. So I'm just kind of waiting for the next person that really puts this together and starts to really eliminate the brokerage piece.
What do you think, Ron?
I hear what you're saying, Jesse. I don't think you need to eliminate the brokerage piece. I think, though, there needs to be a recognition that you want to partner with the right types of shippers as opposed to the right type of broker. And it's interesting, Ingrid, you're talking about 57 cents. Fuck that. I get it, and I agree with you. But realistically, there are customers that are going to demand the 57 cents. And then there's customers who are going to look at it, you know what? It needs to be 75 or $1 or $1.05 for very different reasons. But that means you got to carry that type of freight. I mean, the way I look at it, there are customers that are going to write contracts every year, RFP, and it's going to ride. Then you're going to have contracts or customers that are ruthless about riding the board and looking for spot rates that are really low, recognizing they're going to get screwed when they jump real high. And then you got somebody in the middle who's going to look at, how do I build my business that makes sense for the long term, assuming that I reach the objectives of what I want to get done. Am I moving high value merchandise that can't afford to get stolen, so I need a better type of carrier? Do I need to be on time, in full, every single time, because every one of my loads is to Walmart and they're going to crush me? Am I worried about accessorial, so I need that type of carrier? And that's where I get that this is really a carrier broker conversation. But from a shipper standpoint, I don't look at it any differently. I look at it as a partnership that can be beneficial for everybody within that part of the supply chain.
That's fucking dynamite.
I'm nervous though, Cass. Like, how is it a partnership when you got rates coming out this low? Like, how is it a partnership during the gouge moments? Like, how do you stay authentic to that partnership?
JD, bringing the heat.
That's good.
You know, I would argue, though, you're saying that rates are this low, but I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. You guys aren't having this call when the rates are that high.
We will.
There's got to be some give and take.
We will. And we got to bring him on.
I want to see it.
And we will bring you. We'll bring you and all your friends on.
That's a good point, though, Ron. That's a good point.
It's give and take. And realistically, when I built my model, my objective was two things. One, I wanted to secure customer service. And two, I wanted to protect, quite frankly, people like Ingrid. Because Ingrid, I wanted you moving my loads no matter what. And I had one argument with one of my carriers. Cassandra actually sat in the room. I could mention the broker that did it.
Yep.
I had loads out of California to Denver that I wanted to move all the time for $3,200, recognizing that it would go really high in the summer and drop really low. But I wanted the carrier that carried it to always move it. And I knew what they could move it for, to cover their assets, to cover their employees, and to cover their company. That's the model that I put in place. Now, I recognize that that's not the way everybody does it, but I didn't have arguments about 57 cents a mile versus $1.35. I didn't talk about Christmas tree season, which ironically always comes at Christmas. So any of you guys that are gouging rates at that time, literally, you can fuck off, because I hate that.
Trees.
Just saying, it happens. So that's where I think, in JD, when it drops low, I don't think it's a drop in low. I think it's, if you're concerned about dropping low or going high, the relationships you have with your shippers don't match with whatever your business model is. That's just the way I look at it.
But Cass, I think he brought up something, Cass and Jam, that we were talking about pre-show. Remember, we were saying that some companies don't know the actual mathematical models of their carriers. They don't know what the P&L is or how do they run a profitable truck. Ron does. So that's what's making his viewpoint a lot different versus some of these brokers out here who only know brokerage P&L. They don't understand what it actually means for cost per load, which is what Ingrid is worried about every day to ensure that her CPM is as high as possible. So I'm with you on that, Ron. You've done your research. I'm with you on that.
I was going to say, though, but do you know whose fault that is? That fault is anybody that's in the carrier side or the brokerage side that hasn't sat down with their shippers to explain it. Because if you're a can company, they're going to talk to me about London Metal Exchange, and they're going to talk to me about Midwest Premium, and they're going to talk to me about ingot prices in China, and they're going to talk to me about President Trump putting together all the financial penalties he's putting on China. I know that stuff. because they're talking about it and it's true. I can look it up. If you can do that as a shipper or as a broker, I'm sorry, a carrier or a broker, and walk in, that stuff carries weight. That's why I know those numbers. I didn't do any type of research. I sat with people, talked to them to make sure that it translated to the other things that me as a shipper that I'm procuring, because I'm buying raw materials, I'm buying labor, I'm buying factory time, I'm buying a whole bunch of stuff. Transportation is just something else that I buy, and I become a better employee for my company by knowing the economics.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And Ron, to your point, I think spot on. Is I even, there's brokers that are of that same mindset. I just got a text from one, Pat Lawhon. He's a legit broker that's truly about partnerships. And he's like, Ron is speaking exactly what's on my mind. So that's the nice thing of getting the right minded people together.
Yeah.
Can I throw something in here? Is that you're exactly the person and the people that I want to work with, because you're consistent, you are on point. I can rely on you for 52 weeks out of the year. I don't have to worry about the ups and downs of a year. I'm set in stone for 52 weeks out of the year without a doubt. And it gives me that trust value. It gives me that reliability, and it meets every need that I have as a carrier. Now, for me, I have to give you that service. That means when I haul produce, I'm like this produce guru that if a box is bent, you get it off my truck or it's not going on there because you give me a new one.
I like that.
Or if it's not pulp, if a pallet's broke, if you don't have it down to, I am not putting product that's not meeting temperature-wise on my truck. My truck is not to cool your product, it's to maintain the temperature.
Yeah.
So for you as a shipper, it's giving you customer service at the best I possibly can and learning everything about your product I need to do.
All right,
nobody does that anymore.
You're right.
Sorry.
I mean, I'd say that's the ticket right there. I mean, you look at what we've got right here. You've got a shipper who's educated, right? Who has conversations and is educated. You've got a driver who's educated, who has conversations. Her sharing that right there, and putting this effort in right now. I mean, how many drivers are doing that? How many dispatchers? How many shippers, right? If the shippers, the brokers, and the carriers were all doing that, right, we'd be on the same page. Because at the end of the day, we could talk about truck shortages, but the truck count grew up till 2008. Then after 2008, truck count goes down, and it grows up to 2018. Then after 2019, it goes down. So until you see that it's an ebb and flow, you can blame it on one thing. There's always a point that's going to work wherever it is. But at the end of the day, it's how do you know? How do you realize what's going on in the market? How you can work with each other? Are you educated? Do you value a carrier like Ingrid or Jerry and those guys? I mean, Jerry and those guys, they're out on the road. They don't have to be on LinkedIn networking. Every time they put a good post out or something like this, somebody's looking them up. Somebody's saying, I want those guys on my freight.
Yeah.
Are you doing that? You could do that.
Bravo. Angie, welcome to the party. Woo! Ooh, there we go. Thank you for unmuting her. Tell us what have you been listening to all this? Do you have some thoughts for us?
Okay, yeah, can you hear me? Sorry, it's saying it's all right. So yeah, I've been listening to some of this. I kind of just recently was listening the past 15 minutes. I mean, I definitely have some thoughts. I don't know where to begin. There's a lot to cover. So, I mean, I just kind of feel like I just jumped in. So I kind of want to take a minute to listen to what
Of course. All right. Let's go to JC. Good call, Angie. JC, what you got for us? You always got something for us.
I always
My
got
favorite
something,
New Yorker.
Right? So yes, I kind of am in the same boat as I am a shipper. I am a broker that owns assets. I was a truck driver. I started as a truck driver, so I have almost every angle covered. And I agree with there was a lot of good points that were said here. And I always talk with my team about, when we look for backhauls for our trucks, I know right away these brokers are going to be the bottom feeder brokers. So these are going to be the last one to call if there's nothing else available. I know exactly, they're usually, even in good times, they're sometimes 30 to 40% less than other people, moving the same load. So I know going into that these are the people I'm going to work with, or who to skip, or at the same time, as a shipper, after what happened in 2018, I was able to convince management that, hey, our only way to survive, especially we do high value loads, perishables. The only way to survive and the only way to make sure that our customers are getting the service they need is by having dedicated carriers, dedicated trucks. I would say 70 to 80% of our loads are being done by the same carriers, same drivers every single week. I don't let my carrier, let's say if I ship most of my stuff on Friday, Saturday, as soon as my sales team sends me an order, I know exactly, okay, I'm going to assign this to this carrier. They always take my loads. They know the rates. I have not cut my rates with these guys since probably in 18 months. I've had my rates the same. They will do anything I ask them to do. And my customers are way happy. My customers are way more happier with that. They get their product. There's no downtime. And as far as on the asset side, what I see is that a lot of carriers, they don't really understand, besides they don't understand their real cost. They also, and Cassandra, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. They don't understand liability. When you take a load for 57 cents a mile, right? You don't understand that if something goes wrong with that load, you're not covering your fuel. Now you have a $100,000 cargo claim on you. Whenever I call a broker and he tells me, oh, your truck is going to go there anyway with no revenue, guess what? If my truck goes empty with no revenue, I don't have a chance that something might go wrong and I'll have a cargo claim or things like that. I'll rather not take that 57, 60, 70 cents a mile, even though my truck goes there anyway, because the last thing I need, and I'll always ask them, if you tell me it's a backhaul and you want to pay me a backhaul rate, okay. If something goes wrong, who is going to pay that claim? Are you still coming after me? Yes, then it's not a backhaul. It's not a backhaul.
It's not a fucking
something
backhaul.
It's something that a customer needs. Now, I understand I'm not going to get $3 a mile on a backhaul.
Also, JC, don't forget about those customers who use carriers and brokers for inventory control. They know that
Cassandra. There you go.
They put piece of shit freight on the truck.
Cassandra. There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
There you go. Hit that right on the head. All right, hit that right on the head.
Let's give somebody else a chance to talk. Let's see, either Angie or Chandler. It's up to you. You can unmute your screens, whatever you guys want to say.
Chandler is back.
Next round. Oh, we got to unmute Angie for you. Sorry, Angie. There you go. You're good to go.
Okay, cool. So obviously, as you guys know, we own a trucking company here in St. Louis. We do refrigerated freight and dry freight. We're running about 60 trucks right now. And with that being said, obviously we definitely believe relationships are important. Right away, I'm going to say, I'm not here to badmouth anyone. We need brokers.
I just did, Angie.
No, you're here to badmouth people.
Yeah, you're here to badmouth people. Come on, girl.
We're here to badmouth them, Angie.
I just threw a whole bunch of shippers under the bus.
Yeah, no, it's okay, for sure. But we have 50% customer freight, 50% broker freight. And it is about building relationships. But at the same time, we're not going to take 50 cents per mile loads either. That's crazy. That doesn't cover any operating costs, and you're liable. You see on the highways right now, every billboard there is on the highways right now. We've been involved in an accident with a semi truck. We are being targeted. We've been in plenty of tons. We've been doing this forever. You are not a trucking company if you have not been involved in a claim or a loss.
Bravo, fucking bravo. And here's the thing, Angie, I'll tell you that I represented carriers who were parked on the side of the road. They were way away from the white line, and someone drunk driving way too fast rear-ended them, and the carrier was still fucking sued, and the carrier still had to pay.
They were.
Yes,
yes,
that's exactly right. Yeah, that you are not really a carrier if you have never been sued or never been in a loss, never been sued, cargo claim. It happens. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm dealing with an issue right now with a cargo claim. I dealt with an I've dealt with fatality accidents that were not our driver fault either, and people still try to sue you. We're running brand new equipment, 2020s reefers and trucks. We are running, all of our equipment is newer, 2016 up, with the majority of it being 2018 20s. We take that really seriously, and we've had, you know, like a fatality accident that wasn't even our fault because it was a drunk driver, and this family still tried to sue us. They lost.
There you go. Happens all the time.
Like we
But
are.
Cassandra, she brings up a big point. That's a big point, Angie, that you just brought up, because no one said it yet, and that's my world that I live in at TTN, which is maintenance. But as you're running these routes and you have these gouge low routes for 57 cents a mile, 75 cents a mile, what happens if you break down? What happens if your turbo goes out? What happens if your air hose gets a leak?
Exactly.
What do you do? So that's calculated in that cost per mile, and that should be there. But people don't do that.
Yeah, so that's the thing that we're calculating in is we these brand new trucks. The cost of a truck is rising. Right now, we just bought 5 brand new Kenworths. I have one sitting in my lot. One of these trucks is $100,000. So we're calculating that in because we're trying to avoid having breakdowns, having these maintenance issues that happen. We don't want that. That's how you go out of business and how you lose customers and ruin relationships.
Yep.
That's also why we can't run on 50 cents per mile, because I have a $140,000 a piece truck. If I can this payment, then we're out of business, and we're doing this to better the industry.
Downtime will kill a business. Every day, all
absolutely.
day. Downtime will kill, and that's what we haven't talked about yet, Cass. Is that these brokers don't calculate in downtime. Now, K ratio.
Well, bad ones don't. Bad ones don't.
Jay. There you go, Jay.
Bad ones don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we
Hold
are
on, we got.
trying to prevent, you know, breakdowns from happening. We don't want to have breakdowns. We're running reefer freight. We cannot avoid. We have to avoid breakdowns at all costs.
Angie knows her shit. I like it.
She does.
You do know your shit. Let's we've never heard from. Yeah, girl, go. I love her.
My dad is a truck driver, so yes, he was. He had a heart attack on the road, and like he does not drive anymore.
Jeez, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are like I said, we're a trucking family. We've been doing trucking. We have done brokerage before, so I know both sides. And yeah.
Let's hear from Nick real quick. Nick, you're new to our group. Come on, Nick. You look like you're out surfing. I love the background.
That's just to remember my last vacation. So first of all, before I say anything, I just wanted you to know that I respect truckers. So, but.
Here we go.
You want to know what Angie thought? You want to know what Angie thought when you said that? I'll tell you what she thought. It's what every trucker thinks. They're like, yeah, you respect us. Yeah. But what about those fucking rates?
No. Hold on.
I guarantee you that's what she's thinking.
I've never seen 57 cents per mile. Really. So maybe you guys see, I don't. So,
I've seen it. I've seen more like 80 cents, 89 cents a mile. I see it on, like, you open up DAT and you can see that shit. But go ahead.
Well, probably. So, 2 things. First one, I want to ask you. For example, it's not about trucking, but if you're doing some business and some long time you start getting less money that you spend to operate, what you do? So anyone answers?
Oh, that was a question for us. Say it again.
Question to truckers. So if you spend more money that you get in the business, you leave this business, right?
Yes, Angie's in this business.
Right?
Yeah, I'm like, what's the question?
Yeah, I know.
Yes. So one gentleman, like at the very beginning of this conference, I don't remember his name. I believe it was Mike. Although he said that it's a free market. I bring you an example. One of my customers sent out a request for a quote for a single load. So, and I don't know what's going on right now in the market. I don't have a lot of loads. I just simply posted it on that board to my email and put in comments, send me your best offer. So, and it was a run from California to Ohio, drive and load. So simple. And it was 2,200 miles. And one of the carriers sent me 2,300, full truckload, 40,000 pounds. So, and I asked him, why so cheap? And he said, well, that's the most common rate we've been able to receive.
That is
last 2
extremely
weeks.
irresponsible and unacceptable for a carrier.
Well, other rates were close, 24, 25, 27, 28, maybe 3,000. But, you know, so I'm not the greediest person ever, but if
Oh, yeah, it just depends, you know, how desperate they are to move that truck. It depends how desperate they are to move that truck. If you have a driver that's been, I mean, I don't know if this is a company, you know, truck or whatever, but if you've been sitting somewhere, okay, like a driver's worst nightmare is having to sit somewhere for a few days.
Downtime, yes.
In this day and age right now with freight, drivers are having to sit. If a driver has to sit longer than a day, they're going to call and threaten to quit and leave you. It just depends how desperate a company or a driver is, and they don't want to sit, they have to get home or whatever. That really depends on that. I have a driver,
110, yes.
yeah, sometimes you have a driver that on a backhaul or something, we are willing to do a little bit of a sacrificing on the rate, not much, don't get me wrong on that. I rather, if it's a good driver, you know, if it's a new driver, something like that, then we don't want to lose them because they can bounce around, obviously, from company to company. That's just how it is in trucking. But we rather get them moving and making miles sometimes. And that's so it just depends.
That was big, Kaz. What she brought up right there.
Yeah.
You have drivers that if you don't fix their truck quick enough, they will literally leave that truck parked on the side of the road, walk down the street with their CDL and get in another truck and drive off.
Woo.
That's real. Yeah.
Chandler, what do you have to add to this?
Well, I think the traditional broker is not that big of a threat to the carriers. The ones that I'm really
Chandler, you said that Uber is going to save us all.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic.
You said Uber's going to save us.
Those are the ones that I'm concerned about because we don't really know what their plan or agenda is. But the traditional freight broker, I mean, the 57-cent ones, we can move on, we can mark them away, but when you got somebody who's like an Uber, who people keep pouring all this money into, those are the ones that I consider dangerous. Those are the ones that are the threat. The biggest threat I've actually seen on the road in the last 6 months was a parking lot near the house that was full of 87 brand new painted matching day cabs with that favorite company everyone likes to order their stuff from, Amazon. Amazon has day cabs. I haven't seen them on the road, but I've seen them in the parking lots. That freaks me out when you have a business like Angie who's running one who knows what she's doing. I don't know what Amazon's plan is. Angie's plan is going to be the same. A little bit, she might change it tomorrow, but it's going to be the same as what it was.
Amazon is trying to take over the world, man. That's Amazon's plan, to take over the world. It's like Pinky and the Brain to take over the world.
Yeah, global domination.
Out about Uber, you know, when they first came out doing Uber Freight,
yeah, we were all freaking out.
And it went to shit because they're terrible.
And they don't know what truly, guys, they don't know what I think they're struggling. So I have friends at Uber and they get mad at me whenever I bash them, Angie.
You know, everyone was freaking out. They're like, this is a big game changer all over the news. Uber Freight, blah, blah. They did not live up to the hype. They're a mess. And we don't use them or anything like that.
They don't know the math of trucking. You got to know trucking. And that's what people don't understand. It's not just buying a truck and getting a load. There's more to trucking than just the asset and the trailer that carries that load. If you don't know the in-between margins, then you really need to just sit back and just maybe be a broker. And work at a brokerage, not own one. There's a difference.
Brokers need to understand their numbers too. You know, there's
educated in numbers, and it's not just about numbers either. What I always say, I feel like brokers also need to be knowledgeable in DOT regulations such as hours of service.
Yeah.
Dispatchers here, everyone here is knowledgeable in hours of service. I have friends who are brokers who are awesome people who, you know, who do a good job as a broker. But when I ask them, like, okay, but do you know hours of service? No idea. I know a driver can drive 11 hours. Okay, honey, but that's not, you just you need to critically think this. And I just think you have to be not just.
And the thing I like to say is brokers, you don't know trucking, you don't know regs, you don't know compliance, but actually I tell them you don't need to because it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Brokers should not be instructing or telling carriers when and what to do, etc. And I know it's tempting, but get the hell out of their business. That's what I always tell my brokers.
What do you tell the brokers who? What do you tell the brokers who say, "Oh, we're not brokers"? We're a tech company.
We're a tech company. We're not brokers.
We're a tech platform and a tech company. We're not a broker.
Yes, I know, because I feel bad because they're trying to avoid that word broker because they want more business.
Yeah, but they hang out. Some of those people are watching your stream and they go to our trade shows and they go after our same customers, but they're not brokers. They're tech companies.
And I've had people ask me like, what do I need to do to not be considered a broker under the law? And I'm like, are you finding trucks for a shipper? Yes? Oh,
no,
you're a broker.
No, our artificial intelligence finds all the trucks and does everything for us.
That's great as long as you're sitting back in the background and you're not touching anything, but they're not.
Hey, Cassandra. So someone posted just now, his name is Josh Kale. He said, this conversation of rates with brokers versus drivers versus shippers will be forever in a free market. We want to change their needs to regulation with some economic freedoms in which so many will not allow. So basically he's saying it just will boil down to supply chain and demand, and we just need to basically leave the conversation alone.
Yes, please.
Oh, then I guess we'll all go home. I mean, I've got wine. We know JD has wine. I mean, fuck it.
Yes.
Apparently we're not needed anymore. And that's
we are not needed.
No, I think
what do you got, man? You jumped on at the end.
You just brought up, JD. So the way that we should all be interpreting this is just as such. This is a free market. So let's put in the guidelines and some regulations and then let it go. This is no different than any other market that's out there, be it securities, currencies, bonds, whatever it may be. As long as the rules are the same for everyone across the board, it isn't for one participant to tell another what a rate should be or what they need it to be, because your conditions and your opinions for your business are different from everyone else's. So we keep hearing that number in this today, and I've been in and out. I do apologize. I haven't been able to partake in all of it. But 57 cents a mile, if you don't like that rate, move along, because somebody else will. And the reason why they're getting that 57 is they probably got paid $3 plus to go into it. So keep the wheels moving, and at an average blended rate is what you're concerned with, not the particulars of an individual load. And again, if you don't like it, move along. It's $740 for a share of Tesla. No one's forcing you to buy it, but somebody else is willing to do so.
Angie, what do you have to say about that?
I agree with partially of it. I do agree. Like, if you don't like it, move along. And that's exactly what our mindset is. We're not going to do that. There's no way in hell. But at the same time, I feel like trucking companies, we are so much more regulated than a brokerage. And and I feel like it's kind of not fair. Like, a brokerage needs to have a little bit more regulations. Just if we right now, I have to report to the DOT our gross revenue, miles, we have to pay for IFTA, fuel taxes, heavy highway use taxes, all of these things. Insurance, obviously, have to stay compliant with the DOT rules and regulations. I have to report all this. I have to pay for registration, all of these things. But does a broker subject to all these things? A brokerage company, you have to have your bond.
Yeah. But you're comparing apples to oranges, because I've thought through this too, Angie. I thought, there should be more barriers to entry for brokers. But again, the job is nothing. It's nothing alike. I mean, not even close. They're just some dudes with a laptop or gals with a laptop and a phone. So to say that you have to regulate them, I mean, shit. That means you got to regulate a lot of industry.
No, I know. I'm just saying, how come the DOT, the government wants to know, our gross revenue, how many miles we're pulling? Is anyone asking, a brokerage what their gross revenue is?
The brokers aren't fucking touching trucks. They're not touching trucks. So nobody's.
Ooh, good point, Kaz. Good point.
Regardless, I'm curious to know. It's regardless. They're all up in our business. I want someone a little bit more all up in their business.
Angie,
well, if it makes you feel any better, Angie. If it makes you feel any better.
Angie, what do you want to know from the brokers?
Ooh, good question, Chandler.
I would like to know loads pulled, gross revenue, and the difference between of what you're bidding on these loads and what you're paying out to trucking companies.
Do you want to share with them your 1040 and your IRS tax returns as well? Because you're basically you're asking them to do the same thing, though. And I'm not a broker and I'm not a carrier and I have no stake in any of this, but their difference between what they quote and what they provide to you is their take on this. And we can think about that as their payment for the service rendered, and their service is giving you access to freight that might not have been inside of your network. So from a practical standpoint, that broker with the collective capacity of small fleets and owner ops is taking those individual 1 or 2 truck toms and bringing them to enterprise level shippers that they can't normally access. If you're a larger carrier, you know, my recommendation is to stay away from the spot business. The best thing you could do is get yourself aligned with those shippers if you could. If you could not, the way to interact with a broker is to take a portion of their business, grab some of that dedicated stuff so you can keep your trucks running predictably and not subject to ad hoc spot freight.
Angie, I'll tell you if it makes you feel better, because I've thought about this topic a lot and I love that you bring it up. And I'll tell you, I'll give you something that will make you a little bit more, it will warm your heart a little bit, because brokers are coming under a lot of heat, a lot. This next 2 years for brokers will change everything, Angie. They're getting sued for broker liability. They're taking on cargo liability. They're paying carriers and then they're getting stiffed out by shippers.
There you go.
They're getting cargo claims. They're becoming the insurance company of the industry. Brokers are. Brokers get shippers shoving rates and terms and everything down our throats. And we have to buy insurance that we don't even need. I say we as in brokers, we don't even need this insurance, but we have to buy it because we are insuring trucking companies and everything that goes wrong with truckers. So their time will come, and it already is here, Angie. It's
it's about time, because I'm sick and tired of us being at the bottom of the totem pole, blame for everything. And it always trickles down to the carrier's fault and the driver's fault. And it's always our fault and the driver's fault. And it goes down to
that's
being at the bottom of the totem pole. And I understand that when we take a load, we are responsible for that load.
We know you do. You know your shit.
Angie, you're not at the,
but if you
not
look at it this way,
totem pole anymore. You're not at the bottom of the totem pole. The truckers were parked in front of the White House, not the brokers, the truckers.
Oh!
The White House is
the truckers, not the brokers.
I'd have to say,
You're the ones doing this load. Are you going to carry a load on your back? I don't think so.
Atta girl.
I think I'd have to say, I've talked to Cassandra about this before, but I think it comes down to if you're in dispatch and you don't like dealing with brokers, or you want regulations of them, or you're playing by their rules, go land your own customers. That's what we did. That's what we did. Go directly to the customer. What's holding you back? If you're going to rely on them, you're going to play by their rules. Go land it, put the effort in, and go direct. You've got more knowledge. I've said it before. The carriers, the drivers have more knowledge of the front lines and are savvy. You could sell that. It works. I've done it. They want you. They want
I've
That's why brokers conference rooms and because we're brokering, have a customer tell me they're shutting me off because we're brokering. They want asset only.
Yeah, and TJ, that's why brokers are trying to, and Chandler, that's why brokers are trying to change that broker name, because shippers don't want.
They are. Yep, asset based, right? They're asset based. They got 5 trucks and they broker $200,000 a freight.
Yes, we do have customer freight, and I love it. And we really only use brokers for backhaul freight, because we do have customer freight, because we are a larger, I would say, mid-sized carrier. So we have more pulling power, and we know shippers want, asset-based customers. We know that. But like I said in the past, right now, it is hard to go after all of these shippers, because one, there's a volume problem that, yes, brokers, that's why I say there is a necessity. Like, brokers are there to cover these gaps that we can't fill, because we're not going to be able to get 100% customer freight unless technology fills that gap or whatnot, and shippers get away from using brokerages. Like, yes, we have pulling power for shipper and direct customer freight, but these smaller guys, owner operators, independent.
That's the efficiency part, though. That's where you say you don't have time to call all the shippers, but you say, where am I struggling on backhauls? Where am I struggling on backhauls? Like, I'm always struggling on Nebraska. I'm getting screwed over out there. I can't get the right backhaul. Go find customers in that spot. Now you're calling way less, right? You could focus, be efficient, and not waste your time calling all around the U.S., right? But you're fixing a problem, and you move on, and you do it again, and that's how you grow your customer base.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, guys, we got people in the comments right now that are saying carriers take all the liability, risk, and the blame. Brokers take no blame, no liability, no risk whatsoever.
That is such a bunch
They knew it going into it.
That's just not accurate. Yeah.
Just explain that.
Rules haven't changed.
You got Brandon Bay saying it. You got Kristen McLaughlin saying it. You got a lot of people saying that.
The people who are saying
taking
it,
everything.
they've never worked at a brokerage and they don't understand brokerage if they're saying that, because it's the exact opposite.
So how do we?
The insurance company.
How do we bridge
industry?
So do we need a brokerage 101 for
It's
carriers?
like brokers need to spend more time getting to know the trucking industry and carriers need to understand logistics, because they clearly don't, and they do need us. Angie just said it. She said brokers fill the gap.
Exactly. And that's why they don't need to get themselves comfortable with how the other companies are operating. It'll help you at the end of the day if you understand what your co-workers, if you want to use that term, across the industry are doing. But when you're using a broker or you're using a carrier, you're outsourcing your need for their service. So whatever the broker is doing, be it as it may, you need it to get that backhaul, like you said, to get back home. And if you want to talk about the lack of insurance, whether that is or is not true, if the load's $1 a mile, there's a reason why the carrier is getting 85 cents of it, and it's to cover that majority of it. So the broker's 15% goes towards his overhead, his expertise in sourcing that business for you, and then finding you and giving you access to it. So if you don't want to pay them any portion of it, that's where it would be up to you to then bring that all in-house and incur the additional costs for it.
Okay, we got another.
I don't like brokers,
where,
I'll say that too, but at the end of the day, they're providing a service.
What'd you say?
Well, here's the thing. We got a broker right here, Cassandra. This guy's saying, I carry $1 million bond and $3 million contingent cargo insurance for carriers that don't have enough. Yet I absorb the added cost that truckers don't see.
Yes, it's true.
Sandra,
Not Angie, though. Not Angie. This isn't Angie's got the insurance and she knows her shit.
Good.
Yeah. So, well, let me tell you, as a broker, by law, you don't even have to have a cargo insurance because you're not touching cargo. So why do you need cargo insurance? Why? Because shippers are making brokers be liable for cargo. And then Chandler knows this. TJ knows this. We're like, brokers are required to get now $5 million in auto, because we have to cover when carrier injures someone on the road for some weird reason, brokers have to insure that shit.
The stop gap, yeah. Okay.
To satisfy their shippers' demands.
Hey, Cassandra, what about the $1 million workman's comp? I mean, all we have is
Why?
copy paper.
Like, what are they going to do? Get a paper cut? Yep. And then here's the other thing. The new thing that's springing up is requiring brokers to get this, I don't know, what's it called? Security. Chandler, do you remember what it's called? It's like security.
Yeah. Commercial crime insurance. It's for losses caused by the dishonest acts of suppliers, employees, agents, or designees. And the only other thing I'd say is our best carriers in the past have said, hey, we come to you because you're an extension of our sales force. And we get to use you as a 1099 sales force because
that's a very good point,
have to
Chandler.
pay employees that go out there, so we can use you as our extension.
Chandler, that's a legit point. One I've heard before and forgot about. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Cassandra, we got a question for you. This comes from Ron Kane. He was just on with us. He said, I've had loads stolen and I filed a claim against the brokers. It's up to them to deal with the carrier.
Okay, Ron, first of all, you already know I fucking love you, so you already know I like this question. But Ron is right. That's what everybody does to a broker. All the shippers do. Is the second there's a cargo claim issue, they tell the broker, that's nice, broker. You go deal with it. And let me tell you something. How many times out there do carriers not have cargo insurance because they had that damn scheduled VIN policy or whatever?
Contracts.
Or yeah, or that.
Contracts,
And then
both
we,
sides.
guess who has to pay for it?
And
Brokers. Ooh, that burns me up.
And the good brokers know that, right? The good brokers know that, and those are the ones you got to be looking for. So, I mean, you can deal with ones, but they're going to be the ones on the load board. Some of them, the good ones, don't even have their stuff posted. Dig into your TMS.
Yeah,
find some
good
brokers
point,
that you take
TJ.
loads from before in that lane, right? And they're not posting loads. Call them. See if they still have the freight. If they still have the freight, say you want to be part of their network. If you can't be part of their network, then send them a load list or a truck list every morning. Stay in front of their face every morning. You send them a truck list. They're finally be like, give TJ a load, man. He's not leaving me alone. And now you're in with the good brokers. I mean, if you work to find them, those are the ones that'll take care of you and know their stuff. And then now you're protected again, claim wise and all that other stuff because they know what they're doing.
Woo, bravo. Fucking love it.
That was a good point.
Yeah.
So, Cassandra, you got another comment. This guy, he's a little heated. He honestly said most of the issues that we're talking about on the carrier side is because carriers are covering unlisted drivers and units, sadly. This is from Danae Lenovo.
Exactly. It's called a scheduled VIN policy. So the carrier buys a scheduled VIN policy. And what it says is the insurance company says you have to tell us who your drivers are and the VINs of your equipment. And then because the carriers, they're bouncing around from MC number to MC number and freight to freight, asset to asset, they get in an accident or they damage the cargo and oops, they didn't tell the insurance company about that VIN. And now there's no fucking coverage. I hate scheduled VIN policies. I hate them.
All right, I got one more question for the whole group. This is Alex Schnitzner. He said, how can you say stay out of my business, but also say no my truck cost?
Wait, that doesn't make any sense because you can still understand the cost of a trucking company in general without getting in their business. What I mean by getting in their business is when you're on the phone with them saying, well, how many hours do you have left? Oh, you'll be fine. You can make it. Keep going. Oh, here, I'll tell you how to fuck with that ECM. I'll tell you how to do this. That's the shit I'm talking about.
Hey, Angie, I got a question for you from a guy named Chris. He says, can we talk about detention time and how shippers do not have product ready, but the brokers lies and sells the load to the carrier just to move freight and promises that the load is ready, and then the driver sits there for hours without detention pay?
This is a problem that we deal with all the time. Literally all the time we deal with. It's just, you're wasting my driver's time and hours. Yeah, if it's with a good broker or shipper, then you're going to get paid for that and compensated for your time. You will. If it is a shady broker, you're not going to get compensated, but they're going to ask for your in and out times. They're going to submit it to, their shipper. They're going to get compensated for it, and they will pay the carrier. And I've seen this happen all the time. If it's a shady broker, then they're going to try to avoid you like the plague at all costs. That's a common joke that we talk about. But if it's a good broker and shipper, they're going to compensate for that, and we have no problems with it. But it's the people that won't compensate you. That's ridiculous.
It's so true. And Andy, just so you know,
get the manager, do everything you can to get that manager on the phone too. Make sure you everything you can.
We're consistent. Us here, we are extremely consistent and extremely annoying. And when we're doing brokered freight, say, give me a revised rate con with that on right now. We want everything in writing. We want everything improved. I'm going to show you my driver's logbooks. You're going to see his e-log, how long he's been sitting there, for how long. You're going to get the in and out times on the well. You're going to have everything provided to you, and we're going to keep messaging you and calling you until we get a revised rate con.
And go right around them, go right to the top. Because I'm telling you, those are the conversations we have. And if you want to piss off a manager, you want to piss off, it's very easy to do that if you're not paying attention. It is a huge thing that managers don't even think twice on the broker side. You got to
before a carrier signs a rate con.
Revised rate con or I'm not getting answers, we take it to the top. We need to speak to your manager right now. Like my driver needs to be compensated because he's been up like, for example, if he starts his day and he's been up all day, waiting to get loaded, and now he has to drive. He's tired. He's been up all day. Time. Now we're eating away at his hours. He can't drive. This load's probably not going to make it on time. We got to change delivery appointments. It's a snowball effect. We're going into a snowball effect. And like I said, good brokers and good shippers, customers, they're going to pay for you and compensate for that time. Shitty ones are not, and you need to provide the facts, the paperwork, and if you can't get through to someone, you need to speak to a manager and stay persistent on it.
Oh, girl, I like it. All right, so JD, how's those comments looking?
Really, man, the comments are looking amazing.
No matter what, we always have like 200 plus people watching.
But here's the thing, though, that's getting it. Ron is blowing it up right now. Ron,
bring Ron back in, man. I love him.
I told Ron to jump back in because he's talking about accessorials now are not a profit center. He's diving into what good brokers should. And he said and you got Mike Preston saying any good broker should pay detention if it is documented. But that's another issue. A lot of detention times are not documented by carriers, i.e. their drivers. They just call back their fleet manager.
It's not a profit center, but I know customers that are paying $80 an hour. They're paying brokers $80 an hour.
But you have to understand
$100 an hour. Are they paying the carrier that?
Yeah, but you have to understand, in order for any of those accessorials to come into play from customers, which change from customer to customer, you have to be alerted. You have to have the correct documentation. When carriers sign a rate con, your accessorials, detention pay, layover should all be documented and signed on. And when you sign that rate confirmation, it's paper.
On top of that, like when we work with a certain broker, they will put on a revised rate con their policy for like detention times. And we make it a habit here to call them and scratch it out. And we will say, no, we are not agreeing to this rate con that you guys are only going to pay for this many hours or blah, blah, blah. Like, no, we will scratch it out and we will initial it and we will send it back.
Oh, yeah. Ron brings up a good point. Why does it fall to the carrier per se to document and not so much a shipper, especially the times we're finding ourselves in right now as we get to more touchless type situations, even with paperwork? It really, I think, falls more on the shipper to document those in and out times than necessarily put it on a driver.
So
that makes sense.
TJ, what were you saying about hot comments? I love hot comments. Boom. I love fucking hot comments.
Yeah,
TJ,
I mean,
what were you saying about $80?
You got to have it. I know customers that are paying $80 to $100 an hour for detention. And it's not uncommon. So, I mean, it's, are you paying the carrier that? But the hot comments was just a thing that we always did. We put into our each rate con. It was specific to the customer. You can even make your TMS so that it's specific. It goes to the carrier. But what it also does though, is it can at least spur a conversation. So if Angelina says, hey, I don't want this, I'm going to scratch it off. Now you're actually having a dialogue before it all happens when the driver's pissed off and everybody's pissed off and you're yelling. You can have that ahead of time because you put those comments in there. Right, yep. So you're protected.
We got Ron back in the room.
Ron is back. TJ, good fucking point.
Yeah, it's all about covering your butt and documenting everything, and that's like policy here. Is like I said, when we get that rate con, I don't care who it's with. We're like, no, this is our company policy. This is what it is for detention and layovers. I don't care if we're not paying shit. You got to pay us something. And then we scratch it on there, initial it, and then we tell our drivers get in and out times. I have submitted paperwork from certain receivers or whatever BOLs that had them put in and out times, like a separate page. And I've had a broker say before, no, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. We can't use this. It was a separate like check-in sheet. And they were like, no, that doesn't count. It needs to be on the BOLs. And I was like, but your shipper put that on there. How does that not count? Yeah. Regardless, we went back and we had it put on the BOLs and whatnot. Yeah. Still, like, it is frustrating. It is one of those things that everyone to avoid like the plague.
Yeah. What did you say about accessorials not being a profit center?
He's still trying to connect, so I'm not sure if he can actually speak to us right now. Ron, jump off, jump back on, and we'll see if we can get you back in.
Well, let's talk about rate cons for a minute, because that is a good thing to bring up. And I tell brokers to do exactly what TJ said, which is in your rate cons, you should have a section that your salespeople, not the entire rate con, they can't edit the entire rate con. Salespeople have a little section that they can type in
don't give
customer requirements.
Don't give salespeople too much access.
Don't do it. And they don't want it either. They don't want it. Hi, Lucas. Welcome to the party. Go ahead, TJ. What were you saying? Sorry.
It's protection on all different fronts. So, nowadays there's a lot of structures where there's account managers running it, and then they just put it over the carrier sales team to actually work with the carrier. Well, those hot comments not only work to identify and communicate with the carrier on what's going on and what the stipulations are, but also the carrier sales rep, because they're sitting there going, oh, I didn't know that. Well, now you're in a situation where you're mad because now the customer's mad, and because the carrier sales rep didn't communicate to the carrier what those stipulations were. And hey, each stipulation is gonna be different. They may be a little bit strict, but that does give the carrier a chance to open dialogue and say, hey, listen, we're at this, or we got to be at this, and now you can actually communicate and haggle before. But it protects you from everything. How much things cost. It saves so many arguments. So you can always go back and say, I know you're arguing about this, but check your rate con. I mean, I hate saying I'm not trying to be rude, but it was in the rate con there that you signed that we talked to about.
Ingrid is back in the building.
Yeah. Hey, what happened to Chad?
Ingrid, what's going on?
Oh, Ingrid, hi. Chad was with us too. Where'd he go?
Chad, jump back on.
What kind of freight are we talking about? I mean, we could talk about all kinds of freight. There's, freight that has no detention. There's freight that has detention, but everybody's got to figure about that. I mean, you load a load of cows, you're not even going to probably know where you're going to go for half the way there. You're not going to get any detention. I mean, come on, there's so many different ways, and there's brokers in cows. There's brokers in livestock. It's a completely different world in brokerage and livestock.
Yeah, good
point.
Wisdom. Good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point, Ingrid. And I want to point out, Ingrid, that medallion is sexy as shit, girl. I love it.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was my granddad.
JD, that's that 70s music you've been taking in, man.
That's that 70s music.
It's hitting different.
JD, it's as sexy as I am.
I love it, girl. I love it.
Hi,
So, Lucas, you're on the call. You got
Guys,
some time with Cassandra.
Can I
What do you
ask
wanna
you
talk
something?
about?
I'm here like half an hour already, and I'm listening what the brokers are and how they are bad. But what would you say? I just want your opinion. If, for example, you have a good customer and your carrier just taking your freight and sending it on rail without your knowing that, for example, or you have a customer that you are I don't know, it's a dream what you're getting from him, and you're like getting everything to keep him alive with you, and then somebody on the really important load for you, a team for the driver's team, they staying at the hotel every 600 miles because they're getting tired or something. And how do you treat that people, for example?
I'd say that comes down, that's management, that's rules, that's the things that are set
exactly
out.
right.
If it's a team load, we always have it set up. If it's a team load, you need to talk to both drivers on the phone, right? You don't get the rate
I put them on macro point
on the phone, on the same phone.
I'm sorry. I just put them on the macro point before I sent the rate confirmation to that people.
Well, macro point's a truck, or a single phone. You want that single phone and then talk to both of them from that phone.
Trust me, I did that. And then you know what they say to me?
There's ways around it, but those things can protect 60, 70% of it.
Yeah, I know. You just, what I'm trying to say, you just flaming up the brokers really badly here, but not all of them are greedy. Trust me. Not all of them are trying to take everything, like drizzle of your payment from the rates and keep it from themselves. Somebody, they are looking for good carriers to pay them the money they deserve. And I just don't want to, yes.
And that's culture of the office. I've talked to people in a brokerage with 3 letters, whatever it was. Anyways, I've talked to people there and they say, oh, this guy's hounding me. This guy's hounding me. Just take it, you know, gouge him. That's culture. You know, what's your culture? Again, it comes down to management. What's your culture? Is your culture to take care of carriers and build business or not?
Huge point. I think it even goes left saying brokers and all that to management and culture. I think
management's culture. And you get big enough, right, where you have so many satellite offices that one satellite office could run totally different than the other one. So a lot of times it's not good to just put them all out, but it all comes down to that. And what are the checks and balances? Are those managers being checked, from above? I mean, if not, it's just gonna be slinging freight and taking rates, and there's no accountability.
So we got a question, guys. We got a question that from Sonny, who says, if you fight about the tensions with brokers, then they won't give you a load the second time. So where do you fall in about bringing up detention times, but also want to make sure you maintain that relationship to get a load from that broker again?
But why would you want another load?
Yeah, it's not a relationship then.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if you really want another load from them. If you guys are either it's a expectation exchange that went wrong, or they're a shady broker like what Angie said, and maybe you should be running loads of them again.
Talk to them before you haul the load. Before you haul the load, get them on the line and talk to them about it, because you could tell in the tone of their voice whether or not they're going to pay you or how they feel about it right off the bat. Now you got the option not to take the load. If you're not comfortable with it, don't take it.
Ron, what do you have to say?
Okay, guys, we got one more question. Chris Jolly, one of our buddies.
Hi, Chris.
If there is a driver that is late and there is a rate reduction from the customer, who is liable?
Angie?
Okay, so I actually have, so here's my thing with that. There's so many reasons why a driver can be late. So many factors, as we all know, weather, breakdowns, hours of service, all of that factors into it.
Yep.
I have people all the time that are like, why are drivers always late? And I'm like, it's not the majority of the time when there is someone that is late, it is not because they just didn't drive and they were lazy. Yeah, there's unprofessional drivers out there who are lazy and they don't drive and blah, blah, but that's a very small portion. Our drivers, for example, they're running into all these issues. They're running into these issues like weather, a breakdown, hours of service.
Maybe if it's that important, and the shipper or the broker should have communicated, you got to be here by this time, like TJ says, or you're going to get a late fee.
Or at the beginning, and then also it comes down to the carrier's communication too. You know, when I was a dispatch, I'd call the broker at 10 o'clock at night. He may not be there, but at least I got to it's documented with the night dispatch that it's been taken. This guy's late. Things are going to happen. There's no way around it. But if you're communicating with it, it's a lot easier to deal with, and you'd be a lot less.
What do you think about this, Chad? This is a hot topic.
Chad Boblet.
Yeah, that's our buddy.
It's working. I finally got it to
working.
work.
We can give you a break too. I mean, if you want to get comfortable before we jump in.
Hey, it's just, what was the question? This is awesome. I'm listening to it, but also
hold on. I want to
say,
yeah, no worries. Hold on 1 second. We're gonna go to Ron real quick. Ron, you were saying something about accessorials not being a profit center. I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, because I've seen so many times carriers treat accessorials like a profit center. And I'm going to go the perfect example for me. I'm going to apologize in advance for any of you guys that move stuff via rail, but rail charges fuel as a percentage of line haul. And that's the way that it has nothing to do with what the cost is. And what's interestingly, you can sit there and talk to rail companies and they come and talk about their carbon footprint and what they're doing because you can move so much, but then they'll still charge. So if I'm a shitty negotiator, I pay more for fuel. It doesn't have anything to do with it. Whereas accessorials to me are treating the carrier fairly. So Angela, you talked about you show up late, there's different issues. But if I, as a shipper, cause issues at my warehouse, I owe you money because your freight isn't moving. You don't have access to an asset. But that's a negotiation up front. That's treating you fair. There's an obligation that when we enter a contract, and that contract is the bill of lading, I expect you to show up at a certain time and I will ship it at a certain time. I expect you to arrive at a certain time. If there's things that go wrong, quite frankly, there's economic consequences to failures, and I can live with it, but we need to agree to it up front and treat each other as businesses, as business partners. And quite honestly, it's where, listening to this for the last couple of hours, a lot of the issues come down to objectively not dealing with people as partners, but dealing it more transactionally. And if you deal with it, you get transactional results. If you deal with somebody as a partner, amazingly, you get more of a partnership relationship. You cannot afford your partner to fail.
It's accountability.
Like a marriage with the kids.
You can have a good relationship with somebody and still have checks and balances and hold them accountable, right? It's just how you word it, right? But you're ahead of time keeping those people accountable. That's your relationship. It's not, you're not going out to eat with them afterwards, right?
And these conversations happening on the front end as you're getting into business, not once there's an issue or on the back end, which can happen sometimes. But
you look at detention time as a perfect example of that. You're holding everybody accountable. Like the carrier has to do certain things with the BOL, the shipper has to do things correctly, the broker has to communicate that. That right there is the three-way in which you see that. And that's why a lot of times you run into issues with it, because one of those is going to fall apart and cause the issue on detention. But again, it's the checks and balances and accountability.
No, that's big. I think right now what we're lacking when it comes to our industry is visibility throughout everything. And what I love about this conversation, Cassandra, is that we are now charging people to talk, brokers to talk to shippers, to talk to trucking companies, to talk to all the in-betweens, because Ron brought up a big point. A truck can break down, a truck can have any type of issue in between receiving and having to deliver that load that broker may not be factoring into the cost, but the trucking company that Angie's factoring it in. Ingrid is factoring it in that I can pick up this load, and what is this tire going to cost me if it blows in the next 600 miles and I got 1,800 miles left to go? They're factoring it in. So bringing this conversation together is perfect.
And JD, I think it's not even just visibility, but accountabilities, right? And I think it all starts with that conversation.
Yep.
I 100% agree with that.
Chad,
so we got some comments down here.
Sorry.
Sorry, go.
Well, when it comes to detention, I'm very opinionated about it.
Tell us your opinions.
Well, when it comes to detention, I'll tell you that, for a broker, you can actually get detention free if you do one thing, and that's inform the carrier, the driver, the owner, operator up front. Hey, when this place you're going to go to, you're probably going to sit there for like 4 hours to get loaded. The detention becomes, let's say if I'm in Florida, a place that I know a good chance as a carrier, as an owner operator myself, that I might be deadheading out of Florida. But if the broker tells me, hey, I got a load for you, this is what it pays. The bad side is you might be sitting there about 4 hours to get loaded, but you will get loaded. It takes about, it's actually a true story with watermelon. It was the only option I had. I'm not going to go turn around and tell the broker, as long as you give me this much in detention money, then no, it was a done deal, set in stone. He already told me up front, and all right, well, I'll go there and sleep then. I knew in advance, and I could prepare myself according to my logbook on how the rest of the story is going to play out, when I'm going to pick it up and when I'm going to deliver it. It's getting there and being suckered and calling the broker at 5 p.m. and he doesn't answer the phone, and then being like, he's not going to pay me nothing. Now, I already know in advance beforehand getting there to pick up this load of watermelon. Actually, it took 6 hours, but I was okay with it because I'd already set in my head that I could go there. and do a 10-hour break.
And as a broker right there, that's the advantage there. So when you communicate ahead of time, you've already got the freight. There's two ways to sell it. You can lie and try and sell it, or you can communicate and actually try and sell it. Hey, just down the road, there's a restaurant down there. I know the guy down there. Actually, I'll get the shipper on the phone, try to help. Here's my cell phone. You do those things, you could still sell the load. You just think they're going to decline it because there's 4 hours of detention, but you're honest and you avoid problems and you avoid pissed off carriers.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, we got a question in the comments right quick. We got a question from Joey Funk. He's a logistics coordinator. He says, weird question. How about a load not used? Should the carrier pay if they decide not to pick it up?
Oh, the
Truck
carrier
order
pay its own tonu? Oh.
It's a reverse
load
truck
not
order not used.
What do you think,
I'm
Chad?
for it. I'm for it 100%. Hell yes, I'll agree to that. If the broker says, hey, if you don't pick up this load on time, then you need to pay me. I've never seen a broker do it, but I will agree to it.
That's always been a hot topic that people talk about. I mean, it's tough. It's hard because, and that's where the animosity comes from, because carriers talk about, brokers screwing them over on that, but brokers get screwed over. So many carriers say they're going to pick it up. They don't show up.
So many times.
And it sucks. It's just a balance.
Think about only in 9 years, I can only remember 3 times I've returned a load back to the broker, and that was shortly after I received the load and mechanical failures kept me from getting it. So I mean, out of 9 years, I'm pretty good about being able to hold.
Returning a load's fine because things happen, right? You're going to take a load from a broker, and then your customer calls and says they need that truck over. But if you get them on the line ASAP, that's different. But there's just so many carriers that just don't even.
They
you call
you.
them an hour after, it comes to the broker, right? Yep. Are you calling ahead of time? What's your check calls, right? Are you check calling? If not, you call them an hour after and they're not even there yet. Oh, the guy broke down. Well, so there's just a lot of different situations.
How are we protecting the drivers through this though? Like that's one thing that we're not really bringing up. We're talking about shippers, we're talking about carriers, we're talking about brokers, but the drivers right now, and I see Ingrid shaking her head because she's probably like, hell fucking yes. The drivers are being left out of this conversation, where if it's detention time, that driver is losing their uptime right now. So are they going to get that penalty for not being able to deliver that load on time? What's going to take place?
That's why I've talked dispatch so much about dispatchers, because that's their job. That's your job as a dispatcher, is protect that driver, right? Ooh. I mean, you everything you can. The driver's not you're the one in communication. The driver's on the road. What are you doing to protect them? Are you ahead of things like that? And also communicate with the driver on it too, and letting him know, get the okay before you just take a load.
But you can't protect the driver. Hey, a driver is responsible for theirself and for that load. In other words, we have to take that responsibility. Mm-hmm. If we're going to be late, if whatever,
but as a
we have
dispatcher,
to
your
take
job's
that.
to bring them the information, right? And then at the end of the day,
Correct.
Especially with owner operators, they can say, I don't want to haul that. I'm going to be home.
Driver.
But
exactly.
you got to communicate
and
that.
Right. And I'm going to throw this in there. One truck, just me, nobody else. Here's the thing. I have a backup plan. And if something happens, I had my 2017 sitting on the side of the road in January with a load of chickens on it. I had a backup plan. Within 30 minutes, I had a truck there under that trailer, delivered it, and it was 14 minutes late. Happened a second time a week later. I had a truck underneath it at Kenworth. Boom, they delivered it at Spartanburg, South Carolina, and it was early. Here's the thing. We, as small owner operators, have to give that service to the shipper. He's not going to give us loads if we don't have a way to make sure we deliver them.
Yep.
And if you can't make sure of that, you're not going to be hauling for many people.
That's the best, right? Keep sharing that stuff. You got to keep sharing that stuff. Because the trucker forums are full of negativity, and there's no way around it, right? Your drivers are going to complain. They're in a truck by themselves on the road in their own head, and they're dealing with all the issues. But so that's going to be one thing. But that right there, that's huge. I mean, that's unbelievable. I've seen people ask for your MC number already in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ron,
they want somebody else to fix it for them. I mean,
Ron, you have anything to add here? You are always full of wisdom. It's okay if you don't, though.
No, I think it's fascinating. I think what Ingrid's actually speaking to is she has a commitment to customer service that, frankly, as a shipper, is hard to find. And we rely on, in this case, brokers, because I, as a multi-facility global shipper, can't find the Ingrids where brokers can. I want that relationship. And the fact is, Ingrid, I apologize. I'm never going to meet you other than right here. I'm glad to meet you this way.
Well, great. Thanks a lot.
But your commitment to service is what shippers want, and brokers are that conduit.
Yeah.
And done correctly, it works well for everybody.
Yeah.
And
And
everybody's taken care of. I mean,
I often argue, and I remind people, even when I'm defending brokers from broker liability cases, I have to tell a jury, brokers are supposed to be, they're service companies. That's the goal. That's the purpose of a broker, is to be service.
And as a carrier right there, if you look at it, drivers are your best salespeople. Drivers are your best salespeople. As a carrier right there's an in, right? You're getting the procurement guy on the line. You're telling him, Ron over at the shipper really loves us. All three of us guys going in there just loves us. That means something to him. They don't know that you from anybody, but because Ron may not talk to the head procurement guy over there, he may not know who he is, but that right there, that sale, the drivers being that good is a huge sales point too.
We're the face that they see. We're the first interaction. It doesn't matter if we're at the guard shack or the shipping clerk or whatever. I'm the person that's not just representing Ingrid. I'm representing you as a broker, you as a shipper, and I'm representing the company. So if I'm not given the service, and I don't understand why it's such a problem these days. I mean, it's so easy just to be nice.
The mediocre drivers, I always say the mediocre drivers.
From being in the position that Ingrid's offering this great level of service, because the younger generation is not wanting to come into the trucking industry because we treat our current drivers so poorly and so bad, don't take care of them.
But that's
running
I've
out
always
of
said
talent.
that's the difference between a mediocre driver. Mediocre driver calls you during the problem. A great driver calls you after. They're going to complain either way, but I'd rather have them call me after and say, "Oh my God, you won't believe what I just dealt with," but they dealt with it. And they helped, and they were on the front lines, and that's why they need treated the way, like what he was just saying there. I mean, a lot better. It's going to bring more people into the industry.
But that brings up a conversation of what will make a driver walk. Driver retention is huge in all areas and facets. I mean, for me, it's always going to be maintenance. If they sit on hold or downtime is 4 hours plus, I've seen drivers literally get out of one truck and walk away because, like you said, they don't trust that their fleet manager is going to take care of that breakdown. When they get an accident, there's no cargo load shift. They don't take care of them as far as hotels and lifts to get to back home. Like, driver retention, Kaz, is what we're really talking about. We haven't brought it up yet, but it's driver retention.
It's trust. It's that communication with them and them trusting you, right? You're going to have a bad week. Something goes wrong, but they know you're going to take care of them on the back end, right?
They don't have any patience.
Pick up this
Yeah. Well, no one does.
They have no patience for y'all to fix something that's happened, and they don't want to take the time. It's easier to move on than it is to sit there and work it out.
That makes sense. A lot of sense. Okay, so let's wrap this up by having everybody who's our guest speaker right now go through and tell us very quickly, though. It's got to be quick, so I'm putting you guys in the spot. But when you see a shipment posted under $1 a mile, what do you think carriers and brokers should do? Should brokers not post that shipment, period? And we're talking about like a full truckload shipment. Should brokers just not post it at all? Should carriers just not accept the load at all? Should we all come
as a
together?
dispatcher, you shouldn't even be worried about the posted rates. Don't worry about posted rates. Because here's the thing. When you go in as a broker, you go to post loads and search trucks. Very few go to search loads. So they don't even know what the loads are posted at. Most of them, not all of them. But you're better off calling the 5 loads that don't have a rate on them because that guy has $1,200 in it and all their other loads are posted at 500. He's clueless that that's what they're doing because they have made a different commodity, whatever it is. And now you're making money. Those are little things you can do.
TJ dropping it.
20 calls every time you're getting load for a driver. 20 calls, come in with the same rate, see where they're at, and work them down and then the last people you call are the one with the posted rates.
Love it. Angie, what do you got to say?
I say from a dispatcher standpoint, move on. Don't do it. Don't call it. But from a broker standpoint, shoot your shot, post it. Someone that's desperate is going to call and book it.
Good girl. I like it. Chandler, what are you thinking?
I wouldn't let anyone in our team post that cheap load because I don't want to hear the abuse they're going to get from the truckers who think their load rate sucks. I don't want to hear that toxic.
Or the type of carrier you get.
Yeah, who are you attracting? Because you're not getting the Angies and the Ingrams.
That's a good point.
It's
Not
the,
getting the
it's the ones
Angies
that have the
for the
blown
Chads.
turbo before they make it to the pickup that they can't pick up your load now. That's the one you get.
That's why I tell brokers outbound calls I still think are the best way to go because you're picking the
too.
carrier you're calling.
Yes, I agree.
But if you see 57 cents a load, are you disgusted? I mean, I was disgusted by seeing that, but hearing from Ron, hearing from TJ, like literally, Chad, you see 57 cents a load, what goes through your body?
First thing I did is, that guy's an idiot. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like just something, and I move on. It doesn't even faze me. I'm like, what an idiot, you know? I don't even, it doesn't really
What
faze
do you think, Chad?
For a broker, the mark, post it for the dollar per mile. Absolutely. The market will dictate what the price will go for on that load. I would much rather for you to go ahead and post it for $1 per mile than me have to call you and you tell me that it's $1 per mile.
Yep.
Oh! What are we thinking, Ron? What are we thinking? What's on Ron's mind?
No, I'm thinking if it's 57 cents a mile, you get what you pay for. And frankly,
Absolutely.
as a shipper,
Horse and buggy.
I am perfectly happy, depending on what I'm shipped.
It's a horse and buggy.
There are commodities that are worth 57 cents a mile. Frankly, there's stuff that we move that's 10 cents a mile because I don't care. It can take months to show up.
Yep.
But realistically, if I'm shipping a truckload of toilet paper to Stater Brothers, I might be paying $3 a mile because that's what it's going to take to move it from there to there. And that's fine. But I can tell you one thing, I don't get emotional about it. I don't frankly care. It is what the market dictates, and you just roll with it.
Last note for me, and I've said a lot, but on the broker board, brokers post notes in your load, right? Filter out how many calls, be efficient, right? Don't take calls for people that don't want it. And carriers, look at notes in loads, right? Go through and actually click on it so the notes pop up, and now you're doing way less calls and you're not worried about it because you can see, doesn't deliver till Saturday. Again, like he said, Chad said, you're wasting your time calling.
I want brokers to do the same thing and look at the notes for the carriers. Because, none of these maybe truck stop. I don't use truck stop. I use DAT. But not the load boards don't give me access. And this is, as far as in the future, come on. We as carriers, I should be able to tell you what my price is. And nobody's ever given us that option. You can't give it. The only way I can give you that option right now is if I put it in the comments in DAT, which is none of you brokers ever read that. Maybe it's
and you should.
That's a big point.
Driver's not ready till 5 p.m., right? But it's got to pick up by 3. Now you just wasted time calling him. He's going, I put in the notes, he's not ready till 5.
Exactly.
No, but Jammin brought that up a few days ago. Jammin and Kaz and I were talking, and Jammin literally said, tell the whole story.
Yep.
We were talking about making sure you put it in the notes. And
I'll get less calls. Good. You should get less calls because you're not getting the calls from the people that can't run it anyways.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey,
who cares that I want to see a load board that shows me 100 loads? I just want to see the 5 loads that's best suits me. You know what I mean?
Guys, the problem's not with our group on these notes. The problem is with the people that own the load boards. And if any of them are watching, you guys need to work together with the other load boards to where the language is going the same from the transportation management software to your load boards. Why are the trailer types different trailer types and all these different notes? They don't go to all of them. Make it the same.
Yeah.
We're not the problem. It's the load boards that's the problem.
Until that happens, though, it falls on managers to relay that to their people, right? Tell them, hey, this is how it works. You got to do this. That's on them until that changes.
Yeah.
But Cassandra, I think what they're saying is something like my fiance says, where the language in Louisiana for legalese is different because it's built off of French law and is backed by French law. So because you don't have the same language as you would in other states, a lot of lawyers aren't able to pass the bar in Louisiana. Let me put it over to this side. Load board planners in Louisiana or Texas may not have the same language. So what he's asking for is uniformity so that we all can know without a shadow of a doubt what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's big.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
huge.
that's big.
Ingrid, what you got for us down there?
I got a real life situation here.
You broke down?
Came in for let me tell you, no, I'm not broke down. Real life deal. Came in with a great load. I'm sitting in Indy. Okay. Anybody wants to look on a load board? There's nothing. Well, good. Maybe you got a load. Came in for a great rate. The thing is, you didn't call me. There's nothing coming out. Nothing. I've hit everything. I've got 3 more people in the company. I mean, we can, and now everything's turned into email. Email us, which, instead of call, or you call and it's a busy signal. It's been like that since this morning, and I unloaded and I'm like, really? So going 500 miles and taking $1, if the dollar rate's there for what I came in for to get me back to my high paying freight rate, $1 pays my fuel. So do I take it? Do I don't?
Yeah.
That's the question.
So next Friday, live again, 2:00 Chicago time. But here's the thing, guys. I actually think we should have a little a similar discussion, but about freight guard reports.
Hell
yeah.
True freight guard.
Chad.
I hate them people.
Ew.
Chad got mad.
Let's talk about freight
Hey,
guard
hold, can I, Cassandra? I don't want to. Just give me 1 second. I've only got one freight guard. What's it called?
Freight guard report.
Yeah. I don't know if that's 2 different companies, but Carrier 411.
No, it's the same one. Carrier 411 calls them freight guard reports.
Okay, so it is. Okay, all right. So I've only got one in there, and it's from 8 years ago, and it's such a horrible
Burns
story.
you up, doesn't it?
I've talked to you about this before. I mean, such a horrible damn story. If you go read my rebuttal, it took me like 6 or 7 years to be able to get my rebuttal put in, because long time ago, 7 or 8 years ago, when the report was done, they would not accept my report, and they said because I submitted the report using an iPad, they said that their website doesn't accept reports from iPads.
Oh my God!
And my time expired after 72 hours.
God!
They wouldn't let me put in my report. Anyway, my rebuttal is because the broker wouldn't give me the rate. I did give the load back to the broker. The broker, we agreed on the load before lunch. I called through lunch. Where's my rate sheet? Oh, he's gone to lunch. I called after lunch. Well, he hasn't got back yet. I kept calling. So at 3:15 or 3:30, whatever I put in the rebuttal. Anyway, the broker, I'll make this real short. The broker didn't give me the rate sheet until 4 o'clock, and I turned around and I said, hey, I've lost trust in being able to do the load with you. I'm giving it back to you. But I did that in an email because the broker wouldn't answer his phone.
You guys see how heated up people get about freight guard reports? You see that? We need to have this conversation next Friday. Chad, I want you to find me.
7 years ago.
That was 7 years ago.
And I've called the broker, the same broker in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. And I said, hey, man, you won. You got me, man. You won. And still because Carrier 411, they said that the only way it can be taken off my report
if the broker takes it off.
Is if the broker takes
You're lucky you even got them on the phone.
That was his out, though.
The broker,
yeah.
That was his out. The broker messed up. He could go to his manager.
Sorry, and he still wouldn't take it off.
That was his out, though. He messed up, and then he could go to his manager. I'm going to do the freight guard report. I'm going to follow through everything.
Fuck this asshole. I'm going to put a freight guard report out on him.
100%.
That's why you take it down.
Yes.
That's covered his ass.
If I ever go to Denver, Colorado, I'm going to go to that guy's office.
Good. I'll tell you from a broker's perspective, and TJ is going to back me on this, and so is Jamie, and so is Chandler. That freight guard report is extremely powerful, but you have to be so careful as a broker. And good brokers do not put out freight guard reports.
No, they don't.
That's good, Cass.
I remember when I first started, I went to do a freight guard for the owner came out. You're not doing it. You're not doing it.
Yeah, it's a big fucking deal. So that's what we're going to talk about next Friday, you guys. I want you all to join us again.
I'm doing it. I'll be here.
And hey, Angie and Chad, if you guys find somebody that put a freight guard report on you and you want to get that broker on my fucking show, and we're going to have a discussion.
I still have one bad one on there because we forgot to respond within a timely fashion, and we called the guy to take it off. Don't take it off.
Bullshit. TJ, same with you. If you've got somebody, let's bring 2 parties together that filed a freight guard report and they can fight it out.
Hey, Jammin, we need a referee shirt.
Yeah, man.
And I want to teach brokers
I want a whistle.
Freight guard reports, and I want carriers to understand why brokers use freight guard reports, because there's a big why. Very important.
Or like the driver DAC reports of carriers.
Or that, any type of report. I keep
yeah.
All right,
biggest thing is they tell their customers.
One thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to tell y'all thank you so much for what you're doing for drivers. I love you guys with
We love
all
you.
my heart.
Oh, actually, Ingrid, let's drop a note right now. If anybody has any ideas of how we can get JD right, we need to get our drivers
Yes.
more sanitary.
PPE.
Like, what is it? Like
Yes,
wipes.
we need masks, we need antibacterial wipes, we need hand sanitizers. They need to be able to wipe down the inside of their cabs. Hell, I would love it if you had some shoe coverings for them because COVID can be transported on shoes back into their cabs. So we want to keep them as safe as possible. I see you guys are saying, thank a trucker. We love truckers and all this other stuff. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your resources where your mouth is. Take care of the people that you say you love so much.
TJ, tell them what you did. It was a good idea.
Yeah, we just got boxes of masks and gloves and took them to the shippers.
Like nearby,
I've done the whole truck stop thing. It doesn't work. They're usually tired, grumpy. Take it to the shippers and just ask them if we could leave them there for them to hand out to people that don't have them. It wasn't a ton, but it was enough to put some in circulation and at least make some people feel good about it.
That's a good idea.
Thank
That's
you.
good.
And I will say one last thing here.
Ken.
One last thing. Everybody, find Ingrid a load. Everybody that's on this thing. Get her a
Ingrid
load.
gonna load.
Where you going? Where you gotta go? Where you gotta go?
Thanks, guys.
Angie
it
and
doesn't
Chad need
matter.
shipments too. We love
It doesn't
Angie.
matter?
and
Okay.
Chad.
As long as I don't have to go back to the Bronx.
Ingrid,
I'm good with
Ingrid-
Hunts Point.
I'm good with Hunts Point.
Ingrid, you
Hey,
need
I
to
like
share
the
your
Bronx.
information with everybody. What's your
Yeah.
phone number? What's your MC number so these people know?
Yeah, make sure.
Ingrid, you're a true trucker. You're a real trucker.
Yeah.
You
And,
have
Oh,
a dry van? You have a
828.
dry van?
and Angie,
Sir?
thank you. Thank you for
You
teaching
have a dry
us,
van?
Angie. I really appreciate it.
Reefer.
Okay, reefer, okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're a true trucker. Reefer,
Shoot me a message.
market. It doesn't get better than that for a driver.
Hey, Ingrid, we have people in the comments right now that have commented saying they have some loads in Illinois where you are, near you.
I
just
tagged
when
you.
in the live, just go through.
I tagged you, Ingrid, on it.
Yeah,
Thank
and
y'all.
you guys
Thank
don't forget
you.
about Chad. Don't forget about Angie. They have freight. I'm sure that the locations that they need freight. And here's the thing: is we've got really good brokers, a great shipper who's going to help guide us and educate us. That's Ron, and we've got great carriers on this spot right here. And this is your people you can reach out to. So thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
Woo!